Whether the issue is law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, government, or national security, Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howse.
And welcome to the broadcast on this September 11th, 2025, 9/11. 2025. It happened 24 years ago today, 9/11. We're going to be joined tonight by a lot of guests. 7.5 hours on TV yesterday. 7.5 hours. I don't know how long we'll go tonight. I bet we go 3 hours at least. What you bet, Logan? Huh? Yeah, I bet too. So much to get to. First up tonight is Phil Lyman. Phil ran for governor of Utah. He did very well. I wouldn't be shocked if he ran again. He met with Charlie Kirk 20 minutes before Charlie was killed yesterday, assassinated yesterday. We're going to talk to Phil about the venue, what he heard, what he saw, how it went down, what people around him said they saw, how the community and even some of the young people are responding. Firsthand account from Phil Lyman, who was with Charlie just minutes before Charlie was assassinated. Then we're going to be joined tonight by Anni Cyrus, because this is weird. We have books. The Charlie Kirk shooting, it came out September 10th. There's another one that supposedly came out September 9th. Oh, what? Is there a computer glitch? But even, how do you have a book come out on the same day that he was killed? I don't know. This is really weird. Okay, maybe AI wrote it? I don't know. I want to ask Annie about it. And then Ilhan Omar, she's spouting off. She's smarting off. See what Ilhan Omar has to say. There's also, of course, been a picture that's been released. This is supposedly the suspect that they have. I don't know. There it is. This is the third suspect now. Oh, and they just happened to say that, let me pull that ad down. They happened to say that the ammunition in Charlie Kirk's killing engraved with expressions of transgender anti-fascist ideology. I'm not sure I'm buying that. This sounds way too convenient. What do you think is going on? I'll tell you what I think is going on. Of course I'll tell you. I'm known for telling you what I think. I think that's partly why you tune in, though, right? Whether you agree or disagree, you tune in just to see what I'm saying, as well as our very, very important guest. Well, another important guest tonight is Jeff Childers. He's an attorney, a historian. Let's talk about, I know, how the left is trying to orchestrate a civil war. I don't want to see a civil war, but I am going to tell you what I've been saying to you for months. I want to see the country break apart and see us exit into whatever group of states that want to exit and remain under a constitutional republic. I know Trevor Loudon says that we do that, we're playing into the hands of the CCP. I get that, but that doesn't mean I should stay and be oppressed and enslaved by the federal government just to not make the CCP, so we don't make the CCP happy. I don't think there's a way for us to continue. I don't think that we have any common values that hold us together. And in fact, I want to talk with Jeff tonight about how they are not only just weaponizing language, but they now are reclassifying language to be the talk of terrorists. The Constitution, biblical worldview, Christian worldview. These are now terrorists speaking when you speak as a constitutionalist, a Christian. Where are we going as a country? Because a lot of people are realizing after yesterday, this is probably not going to work long term, because there's too much of the country that hates the other half, can't even agree that we shouldn't have people celebrating the assassination of a young father and a young husband who is simply wanting to debate, exchange of ideas. Jeff and I are going to talk about that tonight, Jeff Childers. Then I'm going to talk with David Pyne. As I mentioned in my Worldview report tonight, Poland is asking for Article 4. They've asked for Article 4 to be invoked. So they need to have a meeting about it, which could lead to Article 5, which means we could be headed toward America being drawn into war with Russia through Poland. That's what they want in Europe. That won't be a long interview because David and I have been talking a lot lately, so we'll make that one short so we can get on to other topics like Dr. Thorpe. You're like 5 times more likely to die from being involved in the healthcare system in America than you are from a gunshot. 5 times more likely to die from going to the doctor and getting involved in the health system in America than you are from a gunshot. And then Mike Weiner, de-dollarization. De-dollarization. We'll talk about that tonight as well, as gold continues to head way up. And I think many say it's headed to 4,000 and then 5,000. And yet we have the BRICS banking system buying up something like 60,000 ounces. We have a lot to talk about. Won't be a long conversation, but a lot to cover with Michael Weiner on the economics as well. So before we get started, folks, remember, we are brought to you by you. We are brought to you by you. Logan, you have the video of me introducing Charlie Kirk at that event that we hosted with Mike? I tell you what, let's just play it tomorrow night. You remind me? We'll play that tomorrow night. I had the opportunity to MC an event that I co-hosted and Logan and I produced for TV with Mike Lindell, and I got the chance to obviously meet with Charlie. He came on our motor coach and then introduced him and give a speech. I think we should play that tomorrow night for Friday night. Today is Thursday, right? So we'll probably do that tomorrow night then. Before we continue, don't forget about our national conference. We actually have people that have registered in the last 24 hours from Florida, Arizona. We have people coming in from Washington State. We have people coming in from all over the country. They want to be here with us for our national conference. I hope you will as well. You can go to worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. Take a look. Right here we have all the information we're going to be talking about, from understanding the BRICS banking system led by Russia, China, and how they're using it to wage war on the American dollar. What will the combination of AI robots with our workforce and economy mean? The threat of China buying up American farmland and hacking on America's critical infrastructure. Lead pollster of Rasmussen, Mark Mitchell, on the real worldview and values that are dividing Americans and how this trend is leading to a constitutional crisis between blue states and red states in the federal government. Wow, this was chosen and written before the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and people on the internet celebrating it. The growing threat of AI data centers on America's power grid and your utility bill. Here, the personal account from Byron Stinson, who brought the 5 red heifers to Israel from Texas. What was the connection between the October 7th attack in Israel and the 5 red heifers? What does the rebuilding of the Jewish temple in Israel tell us about where we are on God's calendar of end-time events? How to prepare for the coming reset of the American dollar and reevaluation of America's gold reserves? What is transhumanism and technocracy, and why you better understand these growing trends being driven by America's tech bros and power elite? What is behind the worldview of merging man and machine? The rise of digital IDs, biometrics, social credit scores, and how to protect your privacy and free speech. President Trump's war on the drug cartels and why he's targeting the president of Venezuela. And what does it have to do with China, Russia, Iran, Hezbollah, and U.S. elections? When red and blue states we redraw their congressional lines in a battle for power, what does that really tell us? And what will be the end result? How and why the collapse of American traditional institutions is the goal of America's enemies. How and why China is preparing for war with America. Inflation, tariffs, and exploding national debt and protecting your hard-earned savings. Why solving the immigration, border, and crime issue is imperative for saving America. And the impact of America's direct proxy wars with Iran, Russia, China, and North Korea. Why President Trump must accomplish his goal of making U.S. elections safe, secure, and accurate in the age of AI, foreign enemies targeting our elections. If the globalist worldview succeeds, what will this mean for America's children and young families? And finally, what the rising trend of aggressive active euthanasia means for aging populations and what it has to do with politics and economics. These are just some of the topics covered at our upcoming 22nd annual Worldview Weekend, Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th, in beautiful Collierville, Tennessee, just outside of Memphis. Great, safe community. Yes, we have security. We have our police chief all the way down in our town, who is very eager for us to have a great and safe event. So come and be with us. Don't let the enemies of America win by staying away. You'll benefit from being here. I truly believe it. Worldviewstore.com. If you want to register over the phone, Melissa will gladly take your order. You can call 901-825-0652, 901-825-0652. Now, if you can't be with us in person, we'd love to have you join us with the live stream. Worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com worldview.com/vault. Even if you get a monthly membership, we're going to let you live stream it. Worldviewtube.com/vault. I take it each and every day, no doubt. It's got 80 clinical trials behind it. It's called Bella Grace. You can find out about it at melissahousebg.com. I'm going to get, hopefully by tomorrow, Melissa to come on set. Handwritten letter from a lady said, I couldn't even open a jar. My hands were so bad, and the condition of my hands so bad, I couldn't open a jar. I got on Bella Grace, now I can open a jar. Another lady is suffering with cancer. She told us in a handwritten letter what happened to her health positively after she started taking Bella Grace. I'm just telling you testimonies. I can tell you personally, I don't know what I would do without it because my hair growth has been amazing. My hands quit cracking and bleeding. My leaky gut stopped. My acid reflux stopped. I sleep better. So many things have happened. It's real. Got science behind it. melissahousebg.com, melissahousebg.com. I also take Gatatana every day. That is a phytoplankton that is loaded with nutrients. One scoop is the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. Goes right to your mitochondria. Right to your mitochondria. We have a lower third for that one, by the way. melissahousegpa.com, melissahousegpa.com. There are 5 clinical trials behind this one. melissahousegpa.com. I do hope you'll check it out. And get the pet product. You'll save $20. That's what I give to Dolly every morning, half a scoop on her dog food for my dear Dolly. There's that cat that has a tumor, got on the Gatatana, tumor gone, right? Boost your own immune system. That's what this does. Feeds your cellular power at the mitochondrial level to boost your own immune system so you can fight off all the bad stuff, okay? melissahousegpa.com. Get a subscription. Then check out all the other sponsors there at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. The water filter company, filter out all the chemicals, folks, that do cause cancer. I mean, why would you want to drink cancer? Or the things that could cause cancer, not to mention all the other disruption in our system and our body. Drink good, clean water, worldviewfilter.net. How about Swish for Life? That's Numi. That has glutathione. Detox your cells. Detox your cells. You can't avoid it. You cannot avoid all the toxins, but you have to mitigate it. And that's why I swish every day with glutathione. My wife is huge on this as well. Both of us take these 3 products: Numi, Bella Grace, Gatatana. In fact, some studies show that the Numi with the glutathione may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. Don't forget about Worldview Talk. There you can find at Worldview Talk, you can find out about our satellite phones like I have, our solar generators like I have. You can find out about Faraday bags to put your computers in, your cell phone. You can find out about the beanies to put on your head. You remember we were showing the other night an interview we did with Nick about how many young people today and babies are being impacted with cancer and other things disruptive related to EMF. Here are the little beanies. And you can get the EMF blankets. And you can get even a Starlink for free when you sign up for one of their very reasonable monthly plans. A bulletproof backpack. Oh, I don't know. Wonder why you might need to make sure your child has a bulletproof backpack, huh? Maybe why you should have a bulletproof backpack. These are big backpacks. Okay, I have one. It covers a big chunk of the center mass of my body. Put it in front of me if I had to. Why would you not? Right? Check it all out. Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. All right? All of our sponsors are there. I do hope you'll check them out. These are legit companies with legit products that I personally use myself. All right? Worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Let's get going. Joining me now is Phil Lyman. He's been a guest on the broadcast several times. He ran for governor of Utah. And yesterday I saw a sign for him, a political sign for him. And then I reached out to him and said, were you there at the rally? Indeed, he was. He was at the Charlie Kirk rally. And he took this picture right here with Charlie just about 20 minutes before Charlie was assassinated. Phil joins us from Utah this evening. Phil, thank you for joining us. And of course, condolences to you in the death of your friend, Charlie Kirk. Tell me, Phil, why was I seeing, by the way, a political sign for you? Are you running for something right now?
No, I ran in 2024, and it was a major run. We felt like the election was kind of stolen in a number of ways. And so the people that supported us have been supporting us ever since. And
so college students showed up with your 2024 political signs at Charlie Kirk's rally in 2025.
Yeah, and a lot of people wearing their Lyman for governor shirts, and it's honestly, it's kind of a movement. It's kind of a statement that says we want things cleaned up in Utah. That's what it says to me, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you were there, and you met with him before the rally. Tell me about that, please.
Yeah, so I don't want to give the impression that Charlie and I are tight, that we hunt together or anything like that. I go to his rallies. I've been to a number of Turning Point events. During the campaign last year, he was helpful. I met with him down in Arizona. I met with him in Florida before that, and so I was glad to see him here. Reached out to his people, and they said, "Yeah, come down. Would love to see you, and we'll have somebody there to bring you backstage. And when his car shows up, we can you can talk there for a minute." So we did, got a picture and said hi to him. So,
Yeah. And where were you when this shooting happened?
So I'd been right there backstage with Charlie, and I was there when he was throwing out the hats. And then when he got started, I wanted to go up and find some of my people who were coming and maybe bring them down closer. So I went clear to the back, and ironically, the far east end of that event and clear up on the highest point, I was walking into a building, and as soon as I opened the door, I walked in, I heard this really loud bang behind me, and I turned around. Everybody was looking like, what was that? What was that? And it didn't take very long. And I thought, I think that was shots. I think that was a gun. And I ran out because I thought, I'm close. This guy is close. And I wanted to see if I could see anything, and I couldn't. And so I'm looking at the courtyard there where I was standing, saying, if there was a person here that could take that shot from 200 yards away, it would have to be with a big gun. And my first thought was, he's on the roof. He's right above us, because I couldn't fathom that shot coming from any further away than possibly just right above us. And I don't know if that's the case, but afterwards, they were saying, yeah, I think he was on the roof, and it is a straight shot, straight down to from where I was at, straight down to.
Well, they have released a shot today. They have released a footage today of what is supposed to be where the shot took place.
That is exactly where I was standing, right? That Sorensen, yeah, right there. That is right where I was at.
So no wonder it sounded so loud to you, right?
That is interesting. Wow.
So you're seeing this for the first time.
I'm seeing that for the first time. That confirms because people were saying, no, it's over on that other side. And the two girls that were standing right there, just right there on the balcony, I said, that was here, right? And they said, yeah, it was right here. And they were kind of pointing exactly this direction.
So you're saying there were girls standing where that yellow tape is. You were right there standing there, and you were talking to young people on that balcony where that yellow tape is now, going across there?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Is there a set of doors?
Exactly.
Is there a set of doors right there?
Mm-hmm. Yep, right under there. There's a set of doors. I assumed it was right above us, on top of that roof that, the lighter one. But
yeah, so the one that says source, and you thought he was up on this white roof, but he was actually up here where it looks like a little bit of gravel type asphalt.
Yeah.
Type.
Oh wow,
So
that's
you're
scary.
seeing this for the first time.
Yeah, that is frightening. I mean, just haunting, I guess, just to know that person was there with that vantage point. It's quite a vantage point.
Isn't it though? And I guess everybody can play Monday morning quarterback, but he was himself talking about how he was being threatened and getting regular threats. Particularly, I think from what my team told me, they heard he was talking about threats talking about getting out of Ukraine and not spending a bunch of money on a war in Ukraine, and they're talking about coming after him and getting threats on a regular basis. And you would think with a guy that's getting threats like that on a regular basis, there would have been at least one or two people who would have been up on those roofs, securing them or on overwatch. I don't think anything's, again, I don't want to act like anybody, failed him, but they just didn't seem to think that was the issue. They seemed to think the threat was someone coming in from the ground, just someone being unruly. But this changes everything. I mean, this is going to change all political things going forward, particularly in regards to anything that's outdoors, but I think anything indoors. I mean, we got our big national conference coming up for us Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. People are saying, I guess you're going to have security. I'm like, yeah, of course. We always have security. But we had our chief police of our towns already talked to me, well over a month ago, because he knows how high profile our organization, Broadcast Network, is, and the speakers like Gordon Chang and the lead pollster of Rasmussen. And now we're bringing in the man that was the guy that brought over the 5 red heifers to Israel to help Israel try to get a perfect red heifer to offer up to get ashes for their temple they want to build, or temporary tabernacle. Of course, some say October 7th happened in part because they wanted to get to those red heifers. So yes, we have, some pretty high profile people coming to our event. Our police chief of our town was already involved. But I think everybody's going to be rethinking security for all conferences going forward that are conservative conferences, Christian conferences.
Yeah, I mean, one of the local stations called and said, don't you think there should be more security? Don't you think that should have been held inside? Don't you think this? Don't you think that? And I said, I don't think people should shoot other people.
Yeah.
You should be able to go and have an event. You should be able to go and meet in a park with 12,000 people and have an event. And so clearly, if you can't do that, then you have to take precautionary measures, which is exactly what I think the objective is of doing a terrorist demonstration like that, is to put a chill on our society. I hate to see that happen, especially in Utah. People are saying, why Utah? Why Utah? And it's like, why not Utah? If you want to make a statement against 3,000 really innocent, really wholesome, for the most part, college students, Utah it's a shocking contrast of Utah, Happy Valley to a terrorist attack, and seeing, Charlie just brutally shot in front of all those kids, and they were traumatized. I was with a group that had 8 or 9 little girls there, 11, 12, 13-year-old girls, and I walked into the living room afterwards, and they were telling me, yeah, this is what I saw, and I'm having a hard time processing it. I know they are, but talk about altering the course of somebody's view on society. This will absolutely do it.
Let me ask you, Phil, did you wake up a couple times last night with the image in your head?
I have not gone to bed. I drove home last night, and I was with people up there till 11 o'clock, and then as I was driving past UVU, I thought I need to go over there. Mainly, I wanted to go and tell the police officers thanks for everything that they were doing, and see if there was any. I thought maybe there was just kind of a spontaneous vigil, and I wanted to talk to some of the college students. So I went over there and hung around for about an hour before I started the 4-hour drive home. And so yeah, I got home about 4:30 this morning, and I just didn't go to sleep. So
Wow.
And honestly, today it's like, so it just starts to sink in. And I didn't see any media reports yesterday. I was just constantly going, have been going today too, but starting to see, just like the footage you showed me there, it's like, makes it so real. It's like, I knew it. I knew that shot was coming in that vicinity. And I'm searching, I'm looking, I don't know. It's just, it feels devastatingly real and impactful on these kids.
Mm-hmm. Well, I woke up multiple times last night with the image. We played the image here over and over and over. And when we were at the desk, it happened while we were on the air. We played the image, and maybe we played it too many times. But I woke up several times last night with that image in my head. And I talked to Colonel Rob Maness today. And he was one of the first people I was talking to this morning while having coffee and waking up. And I said, I woke up many times last night with that image in my head. And I just kept tossing last night. And he said, me too. He said, I just kept waking up with that image in my head. I can't get it out of my head. So if I'm 56 years old, Colonel Rob Maness, military guy, he's 60 something. Imagine what it's doing to a 10, 11-year-old children that saw it and were there, right? And you know what really breaks my heart is, sadly, as I've been saying, one day his children are going to come across it. As hard as they work to try to not see it as they get older, I'm afraid eventually they'll see it. I mean, I can't imagine.
The horrific thing is that it happened, and having to confront that reality. It is reality, so you confront it, and I'm sure his kids will confront that and hopefully process it in a healthy way. Because it's real, you know.
It did happen. That's right.
Yeah, it happened. We watched it, and better to accept the reality of what happened than to say I don't want any part of that. It's like, okay, we're not on neutral territory anymore. It really does feel like a war. It feels like things are coming, and so amazing.
What did you think when you realized this has happened? Who would you categorize as the potential shooter in your mind before we now have an image? We now have an image. The FBI's put out a person of interest they want to talk to. But what were your thoughts? You're thinking, well, this is obviously honestly, someone who's highly trained, right? I mean, this was a kill shot.
You know, I've done enough hunting. If a person has a stable rest and a good scope, you don't have to be that skilled to shoot something from a long distance. You'd have to have the right equipment. But that was my first. I thought this is probably foreign. I was thinking there's probably something to do with the Middle East or something to do with Ukraine. You know, some of the hatred that's coming towards. I shouldn't even say the hatred that's coming toward Charlie. More of the message that he's bringing that's counter to the to their interests, whether it's the Middle East or Ukraine. And then seeing the footage of the individual and some of the other stuff that's coming out, I guess I'm starting to be a little bit more resigned that maybe it was more local, and maybe it was more of a local thing rather than foreign powers. I always go straight to the conspiracy theory and start to rule out things, but
well, yeah. We're being told that he was one of the people on the list of folks that some of these people that are, in the Ukraine movement. I guess.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what we were being told last night by David Pyne and others, that Kirk was on that list.
Do we know? But we don't know who the shooter.
No. All we know is
I thought you were talking about him.
No. That Kirk was one of the people on the list of people being potentially targeted because of his opposition to the war in Ukraine. And
I'd be surprised if he wasn't high on the list because he's so influential. And
what are you hearing locally on the ground there? As far as there seemed to be a lot of confusion. They arrest 2 people and let them go. David Pyne. Do you know David Pyne?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
fantastic guy.
David was on our show, and he's on our show all the time. He's one of our national security guys. But I was at the desk live yesterday, and he texted me and he said, I know that guy that they arrested. I know him. And he comes on the show. And you do too? He comes on the show and he says, I was at the Republican National Convention. The guy's kind of an oddball. He actually got upset with me because he thought I wasn't talking to him enough and answering his questions. And he's just an odd character. But he said, this guy doesn't fit the profile. Now, of course, we know now that he was not the shooter. Now they got another guy, and then that guy let go. I mean, the whole thing. But I'll tell you this. I don't know who picked out that guy and how that guy came to be picked initially, and his pants are down around his ankles as they're dragging him out. But those 2 or 3 minutes or 4 minutes or whatever could be enough over the radios of the police. We have the shooter. We have the shooter. That's enough to cause people to stand down, and this guy gets an easy getaway, right?
I mean, so I walked south. My relatives live right south of the, and so in hindsight, it looks like we thought we were walking away from danger. We walked right to where the rifle apparently was stashed, right, probably to where this person was. But we're all thinking, they apprehended. We didn't know who it was. And then when I saw the video, it's like, oh, that's George. That is. He is not part of this. Then I see him, saying, shoot me. And it's like, what are you doing, George? Are you trying to, they arrested him for obstruction of justice, and rightfully so, but why would you do that? And I was saying an exact same conclusion. That bought somebody some time. And I can't imagine that George had any knowledge or any intention of doing that.
And so how did George get picked out of the crowd to be this distraction? That's what I'm saying was George well known enough to whoever's behind this, hey, we got a guy there that's going to be there or that is there that's kind of known for being provocative, according to reports we're hearing, and let's use him as a distraction. I mean, what was he doing that caused that? Because however that went down, however they targeted him for the image that we have of him being arrested in the video footage, it did buy time, I think, for that person to escape.
I think so too, and I'm really, I'm disturbed by that. George, and just what I saw in the video with him, when he was in handcuffs, yelling, "Shoot me!" I don't understand that, but I guess prior to that, he said something about shooting, or I'm the shooter, or it could be a mental break. Honestly, with George, I don't mean to be disparaging. He has his challenges in life, and I care about him and, as an individual, but strange. That was just bizarre. And I actually knew the second guy that they.
You knew the second guy? What do you know about the second guy?
If it's the one that if it's the one that I'm thinking of.
I think this is him here. Logan's got a picture, right? The second. Oh, that's not him. Logan has a picture of the second guy. He'll put it up there. But you what do you know about him?
If it's the individual with the kind of the robotic arm, which is that I know people were targeting him, and he was either arrested or he came in and said, "Hey, this is what's going around. I am him, and I am not the shooter," and he was exonerated. So there may be three people there. I don't know who they arrested that second time, but that's what I'd heard, is that it was this individual. I don't even recall his name, but not an uncommon figure at political rallies, and memorable because he's got an artificial arm, and really, honestly, a good guy. And when I saw that again after the release, and someone said, "Well, this was the person," I thought, "Oh yeah, I that's again doesn't fit the profile." Mm-hmm. Looks pretty sinister, but doesn't fit the profile.
So let's go to, you working with Riley Gaines, right? And you guys did a rally there, you and Riley Gaines, and when you were running for governor. And of course, she's coming up against the whole trans movement and men in women's sports, this kind of thing. And now we're hearing, and I don't know I don't really trust much that comes from our government. I really don't. I don't think most of our audience does either.
Come on.
But now we're being told ammunition.
You can depend on one thing, and that's that you're being lied to. So
that's exactly right. Because here we go: ammunition and Kirk killing engraved with expressions of transgender anti-fascist ideology. And I read that this morning. I'm like, well, how convenient? How convenient, right? And what are they doing here? I've asked a couple other guests this. I'll ask you: we are in a cultural Marxist revolution. We've been talking for decades here about the red-green axis, the red being the Marxist, the green being the Islamist. They are working together. One of the jihadis out there, Carlos the Jackal, said that we cannot bring down America without a coalition between the Islamist and the Marxist. So they're working together. And I have to wonder if the goal is not to incite a bunch of young college students like Charlie Kirk supporters to get out in the street and engage these leftist young people with their Black Lives Matter, their kafiyas for the Palestinians, and go at it in the street. If they're not trying to do something to incite these young people, because particularly as we move toward the midterms, right? I think, Phil, they would like to have the narrative, it's the MAGA people that are the anarchists. Oh, remember January 6th? It's the MAGA people. It's the Charlie Kirk people. It's the Christians. It's the conservatives. It's the people of faith. And get them engaged in the street fighting and use that for their narrative rolling into the midterms in 2026. I don't know if that's what they're doing, but it seems to me that they're trying to incite violence. And of course, they say that when we speak truth, like whether it's you or Riley Gaines or myself or any other broadcaster or person, even on their own private social media, talks about Judeo-Christian values, talks about marriage and family and morality and standards and patriotism and the Constitution and pro-life, that these are violent expressions. Well, how do you mean violence? If we're so-called domestic terrorists, as the DHS said back in Obama's days with a DHS department document, pro-lifers, veterans, people interested in Bible prophecy or potential domestic terrorists. Well, how do you deal with violent domestic terrorists? With violence, right? So are they trying to create a narrative by saying, oh, we have these people continue to do these things in the trans movement in order to use this as cannon fodder for civil war, for civil unrest, to then justify their narrative. So whoever comes to power next time, now we have to clamp down and get rid of free speech. And we become like Europe. And if you say, hey, someone's a Muppet. I don't know if you saw the video, guys called a cop a Muppet and gets arrested, or I like bacon. Yeah. Are we moving so they can now justify ending our having free conversations like we're having now?
Most of us can understand being lied to, and then we can understand, kind of a double cross. But when you get into the triple cross and quadruple cross and things like that, a lot of they don't comprehend it. But when I saw the story about the casings, I thought, no way, no, I think that's fake. I don't think they would put those casings on. I made that comment to a friend who is very much in the intelligence, and he said, no, they would put that on to get people like you to say no, they wouldn't put that on. And it's like, okay, all right, it goes deep, and most of us are not. We're not schemers. We're not scheming, and the schemers are always 10 steps ahead. And 100% correct that these people are out in front. Way out in front. They do have the Cloward Piven strategy of turning us into a socialized country. It's very old. It's been happening for a long time, and it's going, from their standpoint, it will happen. It's good versus evil, and the good people need to recognize it. You need to understand every tactic that they have and say, we are going to fight this, and good is going to prevail in America. It has to, and it's the last bastion, and it's got to prevail, and that comes from, and that's what Charlie Kirk preached. I mean, that's what he preached was, God-fearing Christian values, home and family, all of those things. That's what's going to save us, and they want to destroy that. They want us to believe that that marrying is old-fashioned, and having children, and all of these things that all these traditional values are they're old, and Charlie was reminding everybody, no, those aren't old. That's what we do. We go to church and we have kids.
Yeah. And now we have 1 in 3 college students believe in violence to stop campus speech. Brand new article by my friend Daniel Greenfield.
I'm watching it right here in Utah. Just yesterday, I had a young friend reach out to me and say, hey, my cousin said something about how horrible it was what happened at Charlie Kirk. And her classmates were cheering what had happened. Mm. Well, who got suspended from school? It wasn't the ones that were cheering the violent action. It was the one who told them to knock it off, and she had to sign a contract that she would stop doing that, or she'd be suspended from school. And they want to know, what's the action? I said, you got to stand up to that. You got Governor Cox in his statement came out and said, we're not going to put up with people who are cheering this, or something to that effect, or search your soul. This is a different time, and we've got to stand up to those people that cheer this.
Indeed, we do.
If we don't, then we're complicit in, I don't know, that gaslighting, that false gaslighting is going to affect this next generation.
Well, we have shown him the picture, and he saw it here for the first time. Of what seems to be the sniper's nest, and that's how close he was to it yesterday. And again, condolences to you. And 20 minutes. So that you took that picture with Charlie about 20 minutes before he was killed.
Yeah. I looked down at my phone, and it was like, this was so short. This was such a short interval from. Yeah,
because our phones record the time the picture was taken.
Oh, yeah. You probably know better than me, but yeah.
And so you could say, it's about 20 minutes before he was killed.
Yeah. It was. I think that picture was probably taken at 12:04. I'll go look at it. 12:08. I think that's about the time he pulled up, and yeah, such a sadness. The condolences that I have, the feeling that I have for his wife and his kids, and yeah, it's that's really, really touching. And then the feeling I have, the sadness I have for all of those college kids who observe that and are having to process that and see how that fits into how we do things going forward. It's just a tragic.
I talked to a friend of mine today whose little children, elementary school kids, had just started yesterday a Turning Point USA class here in Tennessee. And
really?
their little Christian school, it's a homeschool, Christian school kind of dual thing, a little bit of homeschooling, then a couple days a week at the Christian school thing. It's kind of a co-op thing. And they had just started yesterday a Turning Point USA program for little elementary school children. And then Charlie's killed. And these little kids were just, it's tragic. Our kids, so many of our kids have grown up in the 9/11 generation, right? The 9/11, here we are 24 years ago today, right? And now they're growing up in political assassination environment. It's really tough to be a young person today, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we watched what happened in Israel on October 7th, and that's, it's like, oh well, that's horrendous, but that's way over there. Now this is here, and it's time to wake up to it, and the grown-ups have to be grown-ups. The grown-ups have to tell kids, hey, this is going to be okay. We're not giving up on our values, our Christian values, and I guess to kind of take Charlie's message, Jesus is real. Jesus is yeah, Jesus is Lord, and we've got to accept that. We've got to embrace that, and that changes people's courage level. It puts people in a position where they can actually, stand up for themselves and
stand up for others, and stand up for others, right? And stand up for what is right
100%.
and what is just and what is true.
Yeah,
Phil Lyman, I'm sorry. I do hope you get some rest, my friend.
I'll sleep at some point.
Well, you need to.
We've got a vigil up at Brigham Young University tomorrow night. I'm very much looking forward to that. So I'll be heading back up there.
Do you have a website?
I've still got my governor's website up. It's just Lyman for Utah, but don't expect like any revelatory stuff. Lots of good information there, but it's just Lyman.
All right. Well, let us
Utah.
know if you run again, will you?
Okay, I certainly will.
Because when you do, we want you back here. All right.
Doing.
We want you back here if you announce again. All right.
Okay. All right. I'll take you up on that.
You got it. You can count on it. Just text me. And thanks for being with us so quick after a tragedy that you were actually feet from. Wow. Be safe, my friend.
Nothing more important this today. So thank you.
Well, be safe. Phil Lyman checking in tonight. Wow. Joining me now with another update tonight is Anni Cyrus. Let's talk about some of the things going on. Weird things. How about this one right here? The Charlie Kirk shooting, A Nation on Edge, published September 10th. You're telling me the same day that he died, they have a book? I think there's even one here that came out the day before he died, if I remember correctly. We'll see if I can find it in my things here. They may have already taken it down. Logan said he saw it. I think Annie even had a screenshot of it she sent me earlier. Logan can find the screenshot, he says. I think she sent me a screenshot, Logan. Here, I'll send it to you right here. I got it. I'll send it myself and I'll show it. How do you write a book about a guy being shot and killed the day before he's shot and killed? Well, my question was, that's probably just a computer glitch. It was really posted yesterday at some point, but has the wrong date. I don't know. The whole thing just seems as odd as can be. Joining me to discuss this and some of the videos I want to play for you tonight of the insane, bloodthirsty left. That's what I think they are. Anni Cyrus joins us. Annie, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Brannon. Okay,
so Logan, if you want to let me see if you got those pictures, we'll show them because I can't seem to bring up my own emails. How do you have a book come out on the 9th of September on the killing of Charlie Kirk? Is that just a glitch? It's called Shooting of Charlie Kirk. And it says September 9th. You have it, Logan? He's going to show it. How is this possible, Annie?
How is it possible? It's I don't believe it's a glitch. Now,
you don't believe it's a glitch. Did you just say that?
Yes, I said I do not believe it's a glitch, but I will put this note out. You can submit a book to Amazon and you can backdate the publishing day. However, every book that's submitted to Amazon is reviewed by Amazon before it becomes available for me and you to purchase.
Okay.
So even if this was a glitch, when do you think they submitted the book that got out yesterday? Because when I started, thinking of writing, I actually went and studied how do you submit a book to Amazon. It is a 24 to 72 hours process of review. So even if the author backdated it, but the fact that it was still available on the 10th of September, the same day as he was shot, what happens to the 24 to 72 hour review time of Amazon?
Yeah. Well, here's what people are saying on the reviews. This person either had pre-knowledge of the event since Charlie was murdered yesterday, or this is a fake book that has no knowledge of no research. I'm appalled Amazon even has it on their book list. Everyone associated ought to be ashamed of themselves. How can you publish a book on the same day Kirk was assassinated without any details of who the shooter was and what was the motivation? ChatGPT is the real author here, folks. Published the same day that Mr. Kirk was assassinated. Your money, save your money from this bot. Yeah, people are all saying the same thing. They're like, what?
Yes, but here's the thing. Even if we say it was written by ChatGPT, I actually, when I saw all these books on Amazon, I went to my ChatGPT. I opened the new chat and I said, GPT, there are books available on Charlie. And ChatGPT itself said, first ask me how many pages they are. I said, one is 69 pages, one is 110 pages, one is, I don't know, 72, I think. It came back with the accuracy of any of these books would be 75 to 25%, meaning 75% inaccurate, 25% accuracy on the book, if AI wrote it. And when I asked the logic behind this answer, it says, as of right now, I am still updating information on the shooting of Charlie Kirk on September 10th. So I don't have enough data to write a full book about it. And that's not, again, what's the purpose?
I'm was not, found.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was Ilhan. Yeah.
That's all right. I am not buying the whole, ChatGPT wrote it makes a difference. It doesn't. The September 9th, the September 10th, the same day. And again, there is the review time of Amazon. Okay, AI wrote it. 24 to 72 hours is required by Amazon before they ever put your cover on their available purchases. How did that happen? How do we justify that part of it, Brannon? Even if AI wrote it, fine. But how did they skip the review time? Charlie Kirk was announced publicly, public knew about the fact that we lost him about 24 hours ago. How did book came out yesterday?
How? Well, keep us posted on what you find out. Very, very odd.
I will, but just one added sentence to anybody out there who's even entertaining for their satisfaction, entertaining that supposedly this transgender was the shooter. Just think, please think. Stop taking the information that fits your desire and just turn it into reality. This is how we got here.
Yep.
I know a lot of people out there want to think this was another transgender shooting.
I don't think it was.
But think exactly the training. I'm not saying we don't have a trained transgender out there. I'm just saying the possibility of this being another random transgender hating Charlie Kirk is a little far-fetched.
It's too convenient and that he could get away so easily. And then you have an airplane, I don't know what's going on with that, that's supposedly Daily Mail and others reported the transponder illegally got turned off. I don't know. Even if you just move the airplane part of it out, the guy getting there, getting a shot off, first shot, gets away, and then, we just found the gun with the inscriptions that's anti-fascist and pro-LGBTQ. Okay, whatever. It seems like you're trying to spark a reaction to fuel the civil war that you want. So you get a reaction from conservatives and MAGA people to prove the narrative that you've been propagating for the last few years.
Here's my follow-up question. If the gun or the rifle was found, did they lift any fingerprints off of it? Or the transgender was such a pro to wipe it all clean?
Those are good questions, of course.
Thank you. That's why they don't hire me at FBI.
Of course not.
I asked too many good questions.
Well, they should, since you speak Farsi and everything else. So how about this guy, a New York comedian? What did he say? Listen. Oh, here we go. Let me back it up.
I think we can all agree. Isn't it just so refreshing to finally see an assassination pulled off successfully for once? I mean, talk about professionalism at the right time. I think we can all agree.
And he said this, he didn't say Charlie's name, but this was in relation to Charlie?
This was apparently last night. And I want you to pay attention to the fact that he's not just a New Yorker. He's not just a comedian. Because as you know, I focused on the Islamic reaction to yesterday. He is also a Muslim New Yorker, comedian, Middle East.
All right, let's listen to Ilhan Omar.
Know for sure
What
is that, Charlie was someone who once said, guns save lives after a school shooting. Charlie was someone who was willing to debate and downplay the death of George Floyd in the hands of Minneapolis police.
I think he called him a scumbag.
Right, have no regard, downplay slavery and what Black people have gone through in this country by saying Juneteenth should never exist. And I think, there are a lot of people who are out there talking about him just wanting to have a civil debate.
Complete rewriting of history.
Yeah, there is nothing more effed up, than to completely pretend that his words and actions have not been recorded and in existence for the last decade or so. And
all right, there you go, Ilhan Omar. Give me a break.
One second, I want to make a few comments about this clip that was taken off of a longer video. The first thing I want to say is when she mentions that we are pretending like Charlie Kirk's words and actions were not recorded out there. The hypocrisy in that sentence got me, Brannon. Does Ilhan think hers wasn't recorded? Does Ilhan think that the videos and recordings of her out there hating on America, comparing America to Hitler, Germany, telling Somalians she's representing them, calling for defunding of police, does she think those don't exist either?
Well, here's one. Here's one by her, where she won't even say who did 9/11. Here we go.
Founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something and that all of us were starting to lose access to our civil liberties. CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something and that all of us were starting to lose access to our civil liberties.
Some people did something. The Muslims did terrorism.
Right, but that's exactly why I sent you that, to point out her hypocrisy about Charlie Kirk's records of video or audio. It's like, okay, first of all, back then I called her out saying September 11 happened in 2001. CARE was established in 95. So at least get your facts straight, because CARE was not created after September 11 because some people did some. So number one. Number two, she says that, but then today she puts out a tweet acknowledging September 11 and the horrific, attacks, calling it a terror attack on U.S. soil. Again, what changed about your narrative, Ilhan, where you sit on camera and project your Sharia beliefs by saying, because what she's doing is the eye for an eye in Islam. Charlie downplayed this and Charlie Kirk said that. And so therefore, those who were behind taking him out did. But on supposedly mentioning the original post, she doesn't even name him, right? The tweet is political violence is absolutely unacceptable and undefensible, unconscionable. I can't say that word.
Unconscionable.
Thank you. Acts of violence should have no place in our country. Let's pray for no more lives being lost to gun violence. Not even saying Charlie Kirk, but she sits on camera and name him and make a list of his guilty words and actions. And this one is going unreported because everybody else, Brannon, is busy talking about the possible transgender who shot Charlie Kirk. This is a representative. Why are we not talking about what she just did. The hypocrisy, the lies, the eye for an eye justification she provides.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Rashida Tlaib. Guess what? She didn't even talk about it. She didn't even put nothing. It never happened. For Rashida Tlaib, yesterday didn't happen. Neither did today. Today didn't happen either.
Anniversary, solemn remembrance of 9/11 didn't happen.
Nope. No.
Well, I will invite you guys to go to liveuptofreedom.substack.com because Annie has a great article I talked with her on radio today about From Ground Zero to Self-Destruction, America's Real 9/11 Legacy. And if you want to talk about the nations that are really impacting our country, then she'll get into it. Iran, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Afghanistan, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Lebanon, and Qatar. Okay? The real legacy. liveuptofreedom.substack.com, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. Annie, thank you as always for your great reporting. Keep us posted on all of these stories and more. I know you will.
I will for sure. Before I go, can I add two self-promoting sentences here?
Please.
One, on my Substack, I touch on Qatar about 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, there's another Substack. I have dove into Qatar by itself. Everything. There are sections of the money trail, the blood trail, the cooperation. It's literally everything you need to know about Qatar and why we should be against Trump administration doing so much business on personal level and country policies with Qatar. That is definitely a must read because Qatar has gone unnoticed for so long, even though me and you constantly talk about them for so many years. The second thing, if it's okay, I did put up a September 11 a special item on my store today.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I actually, the very last link on that email is direct. There we go, right top is a diamond painting that I did in, I guess, tribute to today. So just wanted to
Is
get
that the
your
only one you have?
That is the one and only, and I am not planning to do another one.
Okay, and you do these all yourself, so that'll be gone for the night's over. LUTFstudio.com. LUTF stands for Live Up to Freedom. LUTFstudio.com. Diamond painting. She has to drop each one of those in there with a little pair of tweezers. Every one, right? Right, Annie?
Yes. One by one, they need to be placed to create the image that is seen as a final product. Yeah, it's very sad. I know you share this, Brannon, but it's like every year, the story behind what happened is disappearing, just like the Twin Towers did.
Well, just like the Holocaust, right?
Just like the Holocaust, yes.
And isn't it interesting? Who was behind the Holocaust? We don't even talk
No.
We don't even talk about who was behind the Holocaust.
It was just some Christian angry guy called Hitler.
Yeah.
Remember?
We can't talk about
And it wasn't even about the Jews. It had nothing. If Jews would have stopped controlling the world, Hitler wouldn't be provoked at all.
Yeah, because we don't ever talk about the Grand Mufti of Palestine, who's part of Muslim Brotherhood, do we? Who was actually one of the architects, according to the very trial, the Nuremberg trials, and we have the pictures of him going over the blueprints for one of the death camps. The Grand Mufti of Palestine, the Muslim Brotherhood, who had an apartment in Berlin and went on the air and called for Arabs to join in killing the Jews, and that they're going to do it in Europe and then over to Palestine. Yeah, we can't talk about Muslim Brotherhood's involvement, or that the Bosnian Muslims were wearing the sword of Islam on their uniforms along with the Nazi symbol, which is in black and white. We have the pictures. It's documented history. It's in my documentary, Sabotage and Siege. But no, we can't talk about that.
You know who talks about it very recently, as of 2 days ago?
Who?
Yeah. There is this writer on Substack. Her name is Anni Cyrus, and she wrote a piece where she said, Islam made Jew hatred eternal. And I go over everything you just said. No, anti-Semitism didn't start with Muhammad, but under Muhammad's ruling, anti-Semitism became an obligation and a duty.
Well, it did. So just as we've lost the history that the Muslim Brotherhood was involved in the Holocaust, we're losing that the Muslims were involved in 9/11. Isn't this interesting? Yep, that's right. History, very important. liveuptofreedom.substack.com. As always, Annie, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much, Brannon.
Thank you, Annie. All right, folks, we'll be right back right after this break.
But with Brannon, it's always cutting edge stuff happening in the world. And it's not just from the political angle, because you can get that on other platforms, but it's always from the biblical angle. So you're dealing with a guy that loves Jesus, you're dealing with a guy that's very intelligent, you're dealing with a guy that is cutting edge conservatism, and you're dealing with a guy that wants to be biblical all at the same time. And so for that reason alone, I hope many, many people will not just lift up his ministry in prayer, but will also financially get behind it, because from the angle I'm trying to describe, he really is the only game in town. And we desperately need it in these last days. Can I get an amen to that?
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
Jeff Childers joins us now. He's an attorney, he's an author, and he's writing some very important pieces over on his website, which is coffeeandcovid.com. Coffeeandcovid.com. Here we go. September 11th, 2025, turning points. A nation plunged into tragedy, a lost political party relishing in death and destruction, and a resolution to transform this immeasurable loss into a new turning point in the history of freedom. He joins us tonight. Jeff, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Brandon. It's good to be here.
Well, I'm glad to have you with us. And you and I spoke this morning, and we're talking about Charlie Kirk. And I was going to have you on yesterday. You don't know this, but I was going to at least call you or text you and see if I could get you on for my broadcast last night. But we ended up putting all that aside with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. But you had already written a couple of articles that were talking about, can the nation stay together? Will this nation splinter apart? Are we too divided on values? Do we share common values enough to hold us together? And I was talking with Chris Martinson, who'll be one of the keynote speakers at our national conference coming up on October 3rd and 4th here in town. And he was saying, you've got to read Jeff's latest articles. And so I went and read them. And Chris is talking about, can the nation stay together? And then Charlie Kirk happens. And the assassination, this seems to add more to what it is we were going to talk about when I got you on, what you're already writing about. Because we have newscasters, we have educators in higher learning facilities, institutions, we have broadcasters, we have average citizens. I don't know how average they are, but we have citizens. We have even people in our government and our military who have been caught on social media celebrating and rejoicing at the murder of a young father and husband. I mean, again, we have to ask ourselves, do we share enough common values to even hold us together? Members of Congress last night couldn't even agree that it's okay to have a verbal prayer to pray for Charlie Kirk's family. They couldn't even agree to do that. So speak to us about the articles you wrote before the assassination of Charlie Kirk and how the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the reaction by these different people groups plays into what you're already talking about, this trend that we're on.
Yeah, so there's a sort of fundamental breach, I think, between value systems and worldviews. Worldview is something that's really fundamental to a person. It's the way they look at the world. It's the way they process things that happen. And it's the combination of a whole lot of different values. And so it's very difficult to change your worldview. It does happen sometimes. People who convert to a religion, for example, may experience that kind of profound shift. But in this country, we've got two major political parties, and for decades, they've been drifting farther and farther apart. And in response to the murder of that young lady on the train in Charlotte, North Carolina, because of the daily blogging that I do, I watch the news very carefully and social media, and I saw a trend of people were talking about race, and there's clearly a racial component there, but I didn't think that was the real story. I think the bigger story with regard to that poor Ukrainian immigrant is how that man that killed her came to be. And I think it's pretty simple. There's a formula, and it's a progressive leftist Democrat formula. And what they do is they take a young man, and this young man could be any race, and they tell that young man from the time he's a small child that there's another group of people that's oppressing him and preventing him from succeeding and ruining his life. And as he gets older, he gets more and more resentful and angry, and eventually he begins to act out. And it's perfectly understandable. And what's happened is that the Democrats have combined that part, the sort of false training and the blaming, so that young man is angry at a particular group, and then they relieve the consequences of that young man's acting out. And so what happens with, if you have kids, exactly how this works. They test the boundaries.
Yeah.
And so they, go over the line the first time, maybe a little bit. And then depending on what kind of consequence they get, they either retreat and reform their behavior, or they transgress a little bit further. And so unfortunately, we've got this system with these two parts, the part where you teach the young man to hate this particular group, and then you don't punish him when he acts out. You create some monsters. And that, I think, is the story of what happened to that poor young lady.
And let's talk then about word. The left likes to redefine words, but they also like to weaponize words. Whoever gets in charge of redefining words has a great chance at winning debates, right? They're pro-choice, right? All the different things they use. Doctor-assisted suicide, or end-of-life care, or mercy killings, or die with dignity. They give all these different words, okay? They don't want to say murder. They don't want to use the word active euthanasia. They don't want to say abortion. They don't want to say killing a baby. So they redefine terms, right? But now they have also, in their process of rewriting the meaning of words or the intent of words, they now have said that if you are a Christian, if you speak about marriage in the context of biblical Christianity and morality as ordained by God as to what he considers biblical sexuality and morality, if you talk about the Constitution even, if you uphold certain values, even the idea of borders and national security, these are all dog whistles, they say, of a racist, of someone who's xenophobic or Islamophobic, or all the other things they can come up with. And that these are really it's not just hate speech. It's, as Joe Biden said as president, these people are domestic terrorists. It's as the Department of Homeland Security said under Barack Hussein Obama, and we have the original document during the Obama presidency where the DHS said potential domestic terrorists are pro-lifers, people interested in end times Bible prophecy, veterans, etc., right? People concerned about the collapse of the economy, things like this, border, immigration. These are all potential domestic terrorists. And we went from potential domestic terrorist, and then we're actually called domestic terrorist by Joe Biden's administration. And so as we have this cultural Marxism, this desire to destroy the foundations, as Herbert Marcuse said, the old way of revolution is old-fashioned, the new way is diffused and dispersed, disintegration of the system, our free market, Judeo-Christian, constitutional republic, capitalist, private property system, destroy it. To do that, you have to take out the enemy, which Karl Marx said, my object in life is to dethrone God and destroy capitalism. Herbert Marcuse of the Frankfurt School said that it was Christians and Christianity and patriotic male leaders and the patriarchal family. So they have weaponized words to say that we're violent, that we're terrorists. Now, when you do that, Jeff, what is the play being made and what is the left seeking? What action are they seeking by doing this?
So, as you mentioned, I'm a lawyer. I do practice in constitutional law. The Constitution has a Bill of Rights that's encapsulated in the first 10 amendments. The First Amendment secures individual liberties for two areas. What are they? Speech and religion. That's the First Amendment. Modern progressivism is teaching kids in university right now that speech is violence. They have a fancy academic word that they use, microaggression. And aggression is violence. So under the common law, going back probably to the Code of Hammurabi, you have a human right to self-defense. And so if you're a kid and you hear that speech is violence and you know that you have a right of self-defense, then what are you entitled to use to defend yourself against this unwanted speech? You're entitled to use violence back. And that's the shell game that they're playing. They're destroying the First Amendment. They're deleting your ability to speak. And Brannon, all you have to do, go on social media right now. It's like they don't even realize what they're saying. And you can see, top name liberal influencer accounts saying things like, well, it's bad that Charlie Kirk was murdered, but, and there's always a but, he said, and then they say, recite something that they think or mischaracterize that he said. So they'll say that, well, it's too bad he was murdered, but Charlie Kirk said that transgenderism is a mental illness. And the clear implication is that somebody who says something like that should expect a violent response. And so on the one hand, basically they're saying, hey, you could die if you talk this way. And that's sort of has a chilling effect on speech. At the other extreme, they're saying, there's people who are going to kill you if you don't shut up. And that's the exact antithesis of the First Amendment. And then when you just connect that dot a little bit further, you mentioned the religious foundation of this country. The religious speech is some of the speech that they target the most obsessively. And so they're in one stroke, they're trying to take out religion by making it impossible to talk about it in public, and to control the way everybody thinks by regulating the way we talk.
So in other words, if you classify conservative speech, free speech, conservative speech, traditional speech, Christian speech, and the Judeo-Christian religion, if you classify that as microaggressions or macroaggressions or violent speech or terroristic speech, then it justifies, according to them, at least they're trying to lead unthinking young people or unhinged adults, psychologically challenged people or warped people, to think that justifies a reaction of violence. Because it's kind of like, well, if you knew that Hitler was going to become Hitler, wouldn't you have taken out Hitler before he became Hitler? And yet he was writing and speaking as a very young man about all these things. So why let a young guy like Hitler, who's now saying and writing these things, become Hitler? Take him out while he's just a young man who doesn't do these things. It's almost that kind of game they're playing. Well, these people are violent. They're Nazis, they say. They're fascists. They're terrorists. These are evil people that are tyrannical. They're going to enslave us. So when they start showing the signs to us, and they've kind of rigged the game here by declaring free speech, constitutional republic, biblical worldview, Christian worldview as violent speech. But once they start crossing these barriers that they've manufactured, that justifies us taking them out in the name of protecting humanity. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So they have done two things at once. So they've elevated speech to the level of violence, which justifies you in responding with violence. And then they've lowered the definition of violence to mere speech, so that you can be condemned. So again, in these posts about Charlie Kirk, which, I mean, it's just breathtaking, the lack of self-awareness. But again, they say it every time. Charlie Kirk didn't deserve to die, but he said, and it's always something he said. Where did the First Amendment go? What if he did say it? What if he was some white supremacist who said, that white people are the best race, and that's just how it is? Well, does that mean he deserves to die? Does that mean that anybody's justified in responding violently to that? There's a premise there that I think conservatives have accepted and need to start rejecting. And the premise is that there's some speech that's out of bounds. And right now we're seeing an example where there are hundreds or maybe thousands of accounts that are literally celebrating Charlie Kirk's killing right now. And they're saying just the most horrible, awful things that you could imagine. But should we lock them up for saying that? That's the crux of the First Amendment. I think that conservatives would say that's horrible that they said it. We should expose it. We should expose them to public shaming and ridicule, but not throw them in jail or, God forbid, kill them. And that's the difference in worldviews that I don't see how, Brannon, that can be reconciled. What's the middle ground between those two positions? There is no middle ground. Charlie Kirk was the debater. Charlie Kirk encapsulated the democratic ideal, right? Which is, the democratic ideal is that we sit down, we have different ideas, we debate those ideas, we try to see where we have common ground, and we move forward together, even though we don't necessarily agree with each other 100%. That was Charlie Kirk's entire existence, and they killed him for it. So where does that leave room going forward for sitting down and talking? How can you sit down and talk with someone who feels like if you say the wrong thing, it's okay to kill you?
Well, Herbert Marcuse of the Frankfurt School, for those who don't know, is a group of Marxists. They're in Germany. Some of them were of Jewish descent. They got a little nervous when Hitler came to power, rightfully so, and they said, we're out of here. And they came to America at the invitation of John Dewey, a progressive Marxist himself, the father of modern education, progressive education, John Dewey, who, by the way, went to the Soviet Union in the late 20s, early 30s to study the Karl Marx way of education, and came back and taught it at Columbia. But Herbert Marcuse, these guys all get brought over here by, at least some of the early faculty of the Frankfurt School get brought over here in about 1933. Well, one of the leaders was Herbert Marcuse, who coined the phrase, make love, not war. But he actually wrote a paper in 1965 called Repressive Tolerance. And I've quoted him in so many of my books for so many years. And I want to just read the quote to you so people realize I'm not making it up. Here's what he wrote in his 1965 paper. This is from my book, Marxianity, which, you don't have to buy. You can get it as an ebook for free if you're a Vault member at worldviewtube.com/vault. It's my 2018 book, Marxianity. But Herbert Marcuse, who coined that phrase, make love, not war, greatly influenced the, talk about Charlie Kirk influencing college students in 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Herbert Marcuse was influencing college students in the 60s. And think about people like Hillary Clinton. Okay? It's kind of interesting. You think about Herbert Marcuse influencing college kids in the 60s, and you think about Charlie Kirk influencing kids. Two diametrically opposed worldviews here. Where Herbert Marcuse wrote in 1965 his paper, Repressive Tolerance, quote, liberating tolerance then would mean intolerance against movements from the right and toleration of movements from the left. As to the scope of this tolerance and intolerance, it would extend to the stages of action as well as discussion and propaganda of deed as well as word, end quote. He went on to say that if you were for armament, you should be stripped of your freedom of speech. If you were not for welfare payments and the welfare state, you should be stripped of your free speech. So this idea of depriving conservatives of their free speech is not new, of course, in America. But now they've gone so far as to try to criminalize it, not just say you're intolerant, but to now say we're going to criminalize you. Like in Great Britain, we just saw a guy arrested for calling a cop a Muppet. I know you saw that, right? He calls a cop a Muppet, a puppet.
Big Bird or Ernie or...
Exactly. And that's considered offensive and worthy of being arrested. But they've been at this a long time, decades, to make it where our speech is illegal, not accepted, to now where our speech is criminal. Right?
Well, right. That's where it's been headed for a long time. This hasn't been, a few years in the making.
Right.
It's been decades in the making. And I don't know. It's hard to pin it down, but it feels like there's been an acceleration since the pandemic started, almost like they realize that world politics are, shifting back, and they have one last shot at getting this done. It feels that way. I don't know if I could prove it in court.
Okay, so where do you think this is going as far as before the assassination of Charlie Kirk, you were writing about this. Now you're writing more and you see the reaction. Can our country stay together? I mean, I don't know how we can. I really don't. I mean, if we can't agree that, hey, it's okay to pray on the floor of the House for a man's family who has just been assassinated in 4K, and we have people celebrating it, what common values do we have, Jeff, that hold the republic together? We are independent sovereign states. I don't have to tell you that. But for the viewers, we're independent sovereign states. And we entered into an agreement. We created the federal government. And we had a contract, and it's been changed and flipped with verbal gymnastics and applying, moral relativism to the law, situational ethics, legal positivism, Christopher Columbus laying down his, idea of the ever-changing and evolving law. And many states, I think, are going to increasingly come to the point of realizing there is nothing to hold us together in this union through the federal government when we're talking Tennessee versus California, Tennessee versus Oregon, Mississippi versus Washington State. Why are we even a union anymore? They hate us. They want to criminalize us. They rejoice when our friends, our relatives, or people we admire are murdered. Why are we staying in this union anymore? We don't even agree to the rule of law and the laws of nature, nature's God anymore. How do we stay together, Jeff?
So you're hinting at a Civil War type scenario.
Or a voluntary separation where we just say, look, we don't want a war. We're going our own way.
And I think it's really instructive if you look back at the last great crisis in this country, during the real Civil War. And there was a polarizing issue. And I know there's a lot of debate about this, but I think let's just go with the mainstream history. And that is that the nation was divided over the issue of slavery. And the question was, can a person be property Or is there something inherently, intrinsically valuable about people that they can never be property? And those were two different worldviews. And those worldviews had nothing in common. There's no middle ground. And the mistake that the country made for years was to try to compromise. So you had the Missouri Compromise and the Mason-Dixon line and all of these unstable, tenuous efforts to try to keep the peace. And eventually it just broke apart like a spring that was coiled, too tightly. It just shattered. And so the question is that where we are in this country? Are we now facing issues where the worldviews are so different and distinct that there is no common ground between them? So, for example, vaccines. Is a vaccine something that it's okay to force someone to take for the good of the community, even if they have to encounter the risk of injury or even death? Or is somebody's body inviolate and you cannot coerce someone ethically to take an injection that they don't want? Is there middle ground between those two positions? Or is speech violence, or is speech a fundamental right? Where's the negotiation between those two? Like, will we concede that sometimes speech can be violence if it really hurts your feelings, and they'll concede that sometimes it's okay to hurt my feelings because it's your right? I mean, it sounds even ludicrous to talk about it. And so the question is, have we reached another point like we were in the 1860s, where we've got these entrenched worldviews that are just incompatible? And I'll leave you to answer that.
Yeah, well, I think we have. And of course, I come from the position that the states wanted the right to leave the Union. Now, whether it was over slavery or whatever else, they wanted the right to leave. And when the troops went across Virginia, headed to, North Carolina, that was a breaking point for Lee. He said, wait a minute, you're sending federal troops across my Virginia to them, and they want to leave? And yet we know Lee was very greatly convicted about the whole issue of slavery, as were many of these people. And it was an institution, I think, going out. But there's been this question for a while. Can states withdraw? We don't want to be a part of this union anymore. And I think they're making the answer for us. And I think they're doing it deliberately. I think this is all designed. I know that people like Trevor Loudon, who I had on last night, and I'm not advocating for a civil war. I would rather see just an agreement that a collection of states will leave the union and we're not going to be under this system anymore, which isn't working anymore. But Trevor Loudon's saying, the CCP and China, that's what they want. Well, I get it. But regardless of what the CCP want, there's what needs to happen. You can't continue in this vein where it's a struggle for political power so that you can criminalize and throw your enemies in jail for simply exercising their parental authority, that they don't want to tell their little boy that they're a little girl. And if you don't go along with it, we're going to take your child and put them in a home where they're groomed and sexually molested, or we're going to imprison you, or you've got to take this death shot. I mean, I know the CCP and what they would like to see, but we have to put that aside and deal with that as it comes. That shouldn't be used as a boogeyman to make us say that we somehow have to sit here and continue to be abused by a federal system that wants to throw Christians and conservatives in prison. And it's a matter of who can get a hold of the power, and then whoever has control of the power can control the National Guard and can control the FBI, because that's what we're seeing. We're seeing under Obama and certainly under Biden what the FBI was weaponized. Now we see this push back toward the other direction to get it in the center. But if the Democrats take over, they're going to swish back to the other side. And all that then becomes is a fight for political power so we can use our power to say that gives us the right to now violate the civil liberties and God-given rights of another individual. At some point, you have to say, we're not playing your game anymore. We're not playing, can you rig the election, get power, and therefore you have the moral authority of might makes right. I don't see that ending. I only see this ending in two ways. Either either we separate agreeingly certain states, or eventually they're going to rig the election as they've done before. And we're going to be right back with Joe Biden type scenario, but even worse. And then you can kiss it goodbye, because they actually then have control of the military, the FBI, and a lot of forces. What are your thoughts?
So I think you're enunciating that tension, that, that wound up spring. It's reached the point where you just, no matter how hard you tighten it, it's not going to get any tighter, and it's starting to crack, because something has to give. The pendulum swinging back and forth, the swings are getting wider and wider, right? And nobody wants to be here for that next swing back. Today, I don't know if you saw it, but Dilbert cartoonist Scott Adams, he posted a pretty serious rant arguing that the Democrat Party needs to be dissolved, I guess is a good way to say it. And he said that, up until Charlie Kirk's assassination, he would have told you, as I would argue, that it's healthy for America to have two strong political parties competing with each other. But Scott said he feels like we're past that point now. And I think that he's sensing exactly what we've been talking about, that there's we've reached this breaking point and something has to give.
And that's interesting. I want to play a little bit of that, but that's interesting because yesterday I had on Trevor Loudon and a few others, and that we talked about the fact, I brought up the fact that under Senator Frank Church of Idaho, he pushed so that our FBI could not monitor, surveil the communists and the communist parties, unless you knew they were doing something illegal. Well, how would you know them if you're not surveilling them? Well, we don't have to guess that the goal of the Communist Party is to overthrow the government, So they started to tie the hands of our federal government, central government, FBI, to monitor some of these groups. And they grew and they grew and grew. And now these groups are the Democrat Party. The very insurrectionists, the subversives, the folks that are the anarchists that are sowing the idea of overthrowing our government, they're now the judges. They're now, some of them were in our military. I think we had some of them that were generals. We've got them as elected officials. Now we have the Islamists. We know what they want. They want to overthrow our form of government. They want Sharia, Islamic law. So we've gotten to a point where we are now legalizing. It's always psychological projection. They accuse us of what it is they are. They're the domestic terrorists. In South Africa, we know for a fact that Nelson Mandela, a communist, was involved in terrorism. He supposedly confessed to Jesse Jackson that right before he was arrested, he was about to be involved in more terrorism involving children in a school. We know his wife, Winnie, used to put, we have the videos of it, tires doused in gasoline around people and light them on fire. And Ronald Reagan spoke about it in the East Room, called a necklace. They did this to white and black. Blacks that didn't want to go along with the communists, they would burn them alive. And now we have the communists who are the domestic terrorists, the Islamists who are the domestic terrorists. We let them come into power. We're letting them make the laws. We're letting them rewrite our laws at the local, state, and federal level. Now they're holding Sharia courts in certain states. Now they get the call to prayer 5 times a day in major cities. Now they're going around telling shops, you're on notice, no more tobacco, no more alcohol, no more gambling, no more pork. We used to have a day and time where these parties, these institutions or organizations or subversives, they would have never been allowed to organize to the point they actually become the dominant political party. Would you agree?
Yeah, so if you think back on your recent history, in the early 90s, the Soviet Union fell. And nobody argues that there wasn't a large group of communist subversives in this country at that time. That's what the whole Cold War was about. That's what, the FBI and many domestic agencies were working on for a long time. Where do you think all those communists went when the Soviet Union fell? Bookmark that thought. They didn't leave the country. Let's agree on that. They either went into the Democrat Party or the Republican Party. Now, put that on the back burner. What year would you say that this country really went off the rails, when, things really started to go sideways? And before you answer, think about, I'm sure you've seen it, as have I, all the posts from Gen X people. I'm a Gen Xer, talking about how great we had it when we were kids and growing up in the 80s, and how,
I'm 56. How old are you, Jeff?
58.
Okay, so you and I are same age, basically.
Yeah, so you remember what it was like. Our parents didn't know where we were all day long. We had high school parties that were unsupervised. Everybody was fine. We went to concerts. We had real music and real bands. There was fashion. There was, artistic and cultural vibes that were unique to that decade. And then something happened in the 90s, and especially in the aughts, and everything locked up. And, if you were to look at the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and pictures of people from each of those decades, you would be able to pick which decade it was by how the people were dressed. But you can't do that for the last 30 years, because everything's just stopped. Science has stopped up until the last 2 or 3 years, when, it suddenly kicked into gear again with AI and self-driving cars and Elon's rockets. But before that, nothing happened for 30 years in science.
And if I were going to guess, I would say what has projected and propelled society, particularly in America, has been the growth of Christianity. Your broadcast networks, your evangelistic organizations, colleges. I mean, we know that some of our biggest Ivy League schools were started to be institutions to train Christian men, leaders, right? So I say the explosion of Christianity in America, and particularly as we began to print Bibles and evangelize the world and send out missionaries and create these institutions for that purpose. And there was a common culture, even if you didn't go to church, there was still a Christian ethos that you honor the flag, you respect the flag, you're patriotic, yes sir, no sir, you respect the parents. If a parent sees another child doing something, they wouldn't have stopped for a moment, they wouldn't have thought for a moment not to correct that child, say, don't do that, don't make me go tell your parents, don't do that. There was a morality, right? There was a morality even in the young people, right? That like when I was growing up, only the potheads smoked pot. Only the potheads smoked pot. And a bunch of my peers, they were not having sex. They weren't. They might have been going right up to the edge, but they were not having sex because they knew the consequences that had been grained into them. If you do that and you get a girl pregnant, you're going to ruin your life, destroy your reputation, that of the girl, that of your own family, and you'll be saddled with this before you get out of the gate. And then good luck explaining that to the gal you futurely want to marry, how you got this child. Oh, I got to tell you about my child. What? So there were ideas and consequences instilled, and people say, well, that's fear. Yeah, you know what? The studies show getting an STD and the fear of all that, it actually works with kids. It actually works. But there was basically a governor, like on an engine. There was a governor that was placed on the culture through a Christian ethos that we pretty much all agreed to. And you could even see some of it in the movies. Even in the movies that were made in the 60s and the 70s, there was still an ethos that was being put out in those movies. And I think if I had to guess when it all changed, it started changing when biblical Christianity or Christian values began to be eradicated from the center square. 62 prayer, 63 Bible reading, 1980 10 Commandments. Let's not teach them about God or moral law. you know, you got, what's it, 1985 off the top of my head, 83, 85, somewhere there. We cannot teach creation versus evolution next to each other and let the kids decide. No, you got to teach them that they evolved from pond scum and life has no ultimate meaning. So my guess would be when you neuter the culture from a Christian influence, you are now extinguishing the power of the nation for excellence and advancement. Because I know many of our greatest scientists and writers and authors and inventors were Christians. We don't rehearse this, but that's my thought.
Yeah. So I think what you just described is that the problem started during the Cold War when we were fighting the communists, right? That began the downward trajectory. And then I would argue that it got rocket fuel in the 90s and the aughts. And if you asked me to point to a single inflection point, I would point to the Patriot Act in 2001.
Now, why? Now, just so I don't want the audience to think I say this all the time, but I do lately, but you don't know this. I was on the air with people after 9/11 talking about the Patriot Act and saying, I think it's dangerous. Wait till Hillary Clinton gets into power and uses it. And we were getting criticized. Well, you guys not a patriot? Are you pro-communist? You're for the Islamists? Like, no, but I fear the government having too much power and intruding. And of course, we now know it. But how do you think the Patriot Act was that tipping point for such cultural transformation?
So I think by the time that the Patriot Act was passed, the leftover communists had been so deeply embedded in government that they had effective control. Call it the deep state or whatever you want to call it. And the Patriot Act invested the federal government with so much power that it could literally shut down entire areas of scientific research. And I say that, I'm not guessing. There was recently some discussion about this by the tech leaders who had met with Biden administration officials, and the national security officials that were meeting with them told them that if they didn't like the way AI was going, they were going to pull its plug, and then described how they'd done it before in other areas of science. All the intelligence agencies, Brannon, set up offices in Hollywood. Why do they need offices in Hollywood? And the Defense Department, by the way. It was because they were reviewing the scripts and approving them. For what? For national security. So all of our media and entertainment, since the millennium, has been filtered through government censors, and not censors for morality like we used to have, because that's not tolerated. Marcuse's rule is, right, you can't tolerate the conservative ideals or values, only the liberal ones. So it's not ethical censorship. It's much more Orwellian than that. It's this national security censorship that we have. We need to have the right ideas so we don't vote for the wrong politicians, so that it won't disrupt the natural order and the unipolar world. So that's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down, but that would be my argument. My argument would be that the Patriot Act, and then you see how we get to Trump and they use the FISA court and the FISA surveillance and all that, to basically perform a coup in the U.S. government. I mean, they still argue about whether that's what the evidence shows, but I'm convinced.
Well, that's very interesting, Jeff, because if the CIA almost from its inception began to be taken over by communist influence, that's at the point you end up with, I think, a CIA director who admitted he voted for Communist Party USA candidate in the 70s and 80s, Gus Hall, John Brennan, who some say converted to Islam. And there's, a real syncretism there in the values of Marxism and the values of Islam. They have so much in common. If you have your intelligence agency like the CIA almost compromised from the beginning, then you can see that it's really not about securing the nation or protecting the nation. It is about hijacking the nation. And then making sure that only the people come to power they want, which is why I think they got rid of JFK, which is why I think you ended up with I think they were not counting on Ronald Reagan winning. I think they underestimated him. I think they thought, he's kind of an actor, a B-level actor. I think they were shocked when Reagan won. I think they tried killing him, in my opinion. I won't get into all that, with this John Hinckley, which is a weird thing. And then, of course, that would have made the former CIA director, George H. Bush, president. And, I think they basically created Barack Hussein Obama. I think he's a creation of the CIA. And I've interviewed Judge Joe Brown extensively in the studio because he lives right down the road about that. I think that guy is a creation of the CIA.
You don't think it was his long experience in government and all of his, his positions?
No. And Judge Joe Brown says he's seen the pictures of a very young Barack Obama in a golf cart with a young George W. and then George H., the man, golfing with Barry Sorrento's father, Barack Hussein's father, who was a CIA guy. Judge Joe Brown's on my show talking about this extensively. I think Biden was handpicked. We know it was the Council for a Livable World, a communist front group that went to him, according to the research of many people like Trevor Loudon, through Arnold Hammer, and funded his campaign to run for U.S. Senate in the small state of Delaware when he was like 29 years old. The same thing with John Kerry. I think the CIA and a lot of these communist groups have been working together for the downfall of the country and the neutering of America and getting us into treaties that we agree to with the Soviets to not proliferate, not to test nuclear weapons, not to advance while they're breaking them left and right, advancing onto 5th and 6th generation warfare. And so, yes, I think, I've never heard anyone say it till you, but I think you make an excellent point for why we see in the early 2000s this massive shift in the culture, the movies, and then there's just not the advancement, as you say, for almost 25 plus years.
Correct.
I don't know many people having this conversation. Do you?
Believe it or not, I didn't come up with that idea. I came across it. So there is a, small sliver of folks who have noticed. And Brandon, it's so stark. I mean, you just take, your main, whatever your TV show representing each decade and put them side by side, and you see the hairstyles change, the dress changes, everything, right, boom, up until you get to the 90s. And then it just stops and becomes just bland, all the same. And you can't tell one generation from the next. So, and then you pick any other area, art, look at what's happened to art. Art, they came up with modern art, right, in the late 80s and 90s, and this ugly, just weird spaghetti stuff. And that's all we have. And yet every decade before that, there was some new, artistic movement that transgressed the boundaries or reformed everything or took a different way of looking at it. And that just stopped. So pick any area that you want and you'll find the same thing. It just died.
I want to play before we wrap just a little bit. You teased it, a little bit of Scott Adams, September 11, 2025. I think he's terminal, by the way. Is he not?
That's what he says. He's got more time, but he's never said he's been cured.
So I think he is speaking out and realizes every day at every broadcast he needs to use it. And here he goes today.
So people say the line has been crossed and everything's different, and I don't know. But let me suggest a few things that might change. Number one, I saw Mike Cernovich helpfully point out that this would be a good time for congressional hearings now, he said in a post on X. He goes, every billionaire funding far left-wing extremism, Soros, Bill Gates, Reid Hoffman, massive RICO investigation now. Every dollar accounted for, every pass-through group's financial records public. What do you think of that? Now, you might say, well, why haven't they done that anyway? Why don't we know by now everything that's happening in these NGOs? We know a lot, and we know that they're corrupt money laundering organizations. But maybe even go bigger and just make all NGOs illegal. unless they've gone through some specific kind of vetting process. Just make them all illegal. Not permanently. You say, all right, you could be illegal, you could be legal, but you're going to have to answer all these questions in writing, who's in charge and what'd you do and what'd you do with the money. You'd have to agree to be audited, stuff like that. So I'm 100% in favor of the government going way more aggressive on RICO investigations for this massive criminal enterprise called Democrats. Would it work? Well, remember the Democrats have really good lawyers and lots of them. So probably it would just get all tied up in the courts for 100 years until Trump was out of office and it all went away. But it's one thing we could do. It's one thing we could do. And I'll tell you one thing that's changed is risk tolerance. When one of your own, and by the way, I take this very personally. I didn't know Charlie personally. My only fleeting connection was he once invited me on his podcast, and I thought I was going to be dead in a few weeks, so I didn't return his message. So I never talked to him. But it's still personal. This one's personal because I consider myself say a brother in arms, meaning that we were in the same war, in the same platoon. I just didn't know him personally. So the fact that he got taken out, that's personal. That's personal. And so when that happens, my personal risk profile gets adjusted. When I say, you mean there's a chance I'll be shot? All right, then RICO every one of these motherfuckers to the ground. I wouldn't have wanted to, destroy the country by going after the billionaires and really making it that overtly political. And it would be massive destruction. Now I'm all in. I'm all in for the massive destruction.
Wow. And there's more to that. That's just 3 minutes and 12 seconds of what is 6 minutes and 13 seconds. That's about half. I want to hear the rest later. But I think we're heading towards something. I think people are realizing, as you said, we're at a tipping point. The spring is round too tight. It can't be tightened anymore without there being massive destruction to our very existence. So if there's going to be destruction, well, then bring it. Because it seems like there's going to be destruction one way or the other. Either there's going to be massive destruction of the tyranny that they're erecting or massive destruction of us. It's kind of like Winston Churchill said, it is better to die than to live as slaves. Right?
Yeah, I'm really glad that you played that clip for the viewers because even though we sort of described it before, you need to hear Scott and his tone of voice and sort of the power and the force of what he was saying, because I don't know if you picked up on it the same way that I did, but what I sense when I hear Scott talking is I hear a man who's repressing some, incredible, strong emotions. And he's controlling them, but he lets it out. Like when he says, I say, burn these blankety blanks to the ground then. It just kind of edges out for that second. And you see that dangerous level of just powerful, overwhelming emotion behind it. And I think that's how a lot of us are feeling right now.
Mm-hmm. And you just wait until they hyperinflate away the dollar and flip us to a new system. That I think they think they're going to be able to somehow do this and keep things under control. But if they drive this system of ours in the reset, where it becomes massively inflationary, and people own nothing, and he thinks they're going to be happy, Klaus Schwab, by 2030 you'll own nothing and be happy. I don't think so. I think there's a percentage of the country that's never worked, that's never earned anything, that's never saved, that's never taken risk. But to those of us who are my age, maybe a little younger and older, who have worked like dogs, never belonged to a golf club, drove used cars for years, worked like a dog for the first 5 years of my marriage to be able to get the down payment to buy a house, and then worked my tail off to pay it off in 3 years. First townhome, $120,000. My wife and I work like dogs. We'd never have been on a cruise, never traveled overseas, all the things we chose not to do. Does it make us better than somebody else? Does it make us more virtuous than somebody else? Does it make us more spiritual than somebody else? There are just things we chose not to do. Others may, but we will not, because we have certain goals. We want to be debt-free. We have built a home and a life and an organization, and we are debt-free. And by golly, if you think I'm going to sit here and let them destroy it and steal it, and I'm not going to take up a position with my brothers of the same, the property owners, the bourgeoisie, or whatever they want to call us, against the proletariat or the globalists, bring it. Because I would rather die than live as a slave. Because it's wrong. It's wrong. And I got the Bible on my side, and I got the Constitution on my side. But if they think that they're going to reset this thing, take what everyone has worked for their whole life and trying to leave something for their children and grandchildren to make the burden a little bit easier on them, which I know that's, for a lot of men, that's in their bones. Maybe it's not because we have a bunch of feminized men today, but I know it's in my father and father-in-law's generation. I know it's in my blood to try to leave something to my children and my grandchildren, not because I want to spoil them, but because I want to try to help them get off to a good start with their families and marriage, take a little strain off of them just to get them going. And you're telling me we're going to take people who have worked their whole life, been responsible, chosen not to do things in order to pay their taxes and try to get ahead and be debt-free, and we're going to come in and destroy it all? Then I'm sorry, we're ready to go. Let's go. I'm with him. And I'll tell you, a man that has nothing left to lose has nothing left to lose. So if they think they can steal away what people have worked for and they won't respond, well, I don't think they know the average John Wayne American that's still around. And there may not be many of us, but there's enough to make them have a very bad day, in my opinion.
Well, brother, you and I are in the same platoon. And I'll always have your back, and I'm up for whatever's coming. But I don't think we're necessarily fighting this alone. And my thing is to be optimistic anyway. That's what people like about my blog. How great is it that somebody took out Klaus Schwab with his own Me Too problem, right? So there's forces working in this world that we don't know about, that are the forces, the white hats, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. So, we're not on our own, but we are definitely approaching in this country, some kind of zenith, some tipping point, some turning point, if you will, where something has to give.
You know what I was shocked to find out? 38% of Americans own their home free and clear. Are you shocked by that number? 38% of Americans. I asked Grok. I'll do it again real quick just to prove it to you.
Yeah, that's a lot higher than I would have guessed if you had asked me to guess.
How many Americans own their home outright? It was like 83 million households. 38% of America, 30% of households own their home, and ended up being like 83 million Americans.
I'll count that as good news.
Well, I thought that was amazing news, because when people have skin in the game, then they will stand up, right? And I don't know about you, but in America, okay, it's 34.8 million Americans own their home outright, 34.1 million. And the figure represents about 39.8% of all U.S. homeowners.
Wow.
Roughly 25.5% of total U.S. household. Now, I don't know about you, but where I live here in the Mid-South, property and property values and property rights are a big thing, even with old school, not the new Democrats, but old school Democrats. I think that's, again, something that could bridge Republicans and Democrats, bring Americans together, is privacy and private property. Privacy and private property. I mean, I've said we need a new party called the Private Property Party, because I think there are a lot of Democrats, a lot of independents, a lot of libertarians, a lot of apolitical people that say, let Washington and these guys do whatever they want to do, but you better not mess with my property, right? You better not mess with my house that I've worked my whole life for. At least I have somewhere to live. I paid it off because I at least want to know that. So I think the fact you got 39.8% of U.S. homeowners, or roughly 25.5% of total households, owning their own property is a good sign. Closing comment?
I don't know if you saw it, but my terrific Governor Ron DeSantis, has made it a main plank of his new agenda to abolish property taxes for primary homestead.
Great idea. Great idea. And that's that private property party I'm talking about. The private property party. I mean, we got to find a few things, a few major things that we can agree on as Americans and coalesce around that, right? I think private property, parental authority, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, I think those are things we can all agree on. A lot of us. Where we may not agree on other things, we can certainly agree on those. Well, folks, you should visit his website, coffeeandcovid.com, coffeeandcovid.com. Jeff, you're a great guest. I want to get you back on again more regularly. I love these conversations. These are not rehearsed. We're just talking, and the audience just gets to listen in. Great conversation. Thank you, Jeff.
I enjoyed it very much. Thanks, Brannon.
Jeff Childers checking in, coffeeandcovid.com. I also think our personalities balance each other. I'm a little, he's real laid back. That my wife and I are that same way. That makes a nice kind of balancing off. But I like his calm personality. It allows me to be revved up. That's a good conversation we had. We'll post it online. You guys should share it everywhere. All right? We'll be right back after this break.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies cat's claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisol collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.
Joining me now is David Pyne. Let's talk about what's going on with Poland and Russia and NATO and Article 4 and Article 5, what it all means as, we could, again, see ourselves dragged into a war through NATO. Joining me now is David Pyne. David, welcome back to the broadcast. Thank you for being with us.
Hey, Brannon, great to be with you.
Okay, so David, explain to our audience what's happening here. Some drones from Russia went into Poland the other night. Is that right?
Yeah, supposedly, according to the Polish government, there were a dozen or so Russian drones that entered Polish airspace, both from Belarus and Ukraine. That was, according to Poland, it was unusual because, previously there had been some stray drones that had entered from Ukraine, and this time some entered from Belarus, where, of course, Russia's preparing their annual Zapad 2025 exercises and massing upwards, up to 150,000 troops, along with Belarusian forces. So there's been some concern about that. There's some talk about those forces exercising very close to the Polish and Lithuanian borders, which border on Belarus. And apparently there were Polish fighters and reportedly even some Lithuanian, perhaps Italian, and even one US F-35 that helped to shoot those down. I think this incident's much overblown. I mean, even if they were combat drones, they made no attacks. This was not a Russian attack against Poland, as they appear to be claiming. It was not an active war. If anything, it was more of a probing mission. Probably, in my assessment, strategic signaling by Russia to try to reestablish deterrence. So we know that NATO countries have been escalating their proxy war against Russia and Ukraine, and nothing. Russia has not retaliated in kind. Thankfully, they haven't used Russian missiles to target NATO bases, as we have helped Ukraine to do. They haven't hit civilian targets as we've helped Ukraine to do. So this was a very, in my opinion, measured response on the part of Russia to increasing NATO escalations. And Poland did invoke Article 4 to have an emergency meeting with other NATO member states to discuss how to respond to the future Russian drone incursions, and I think that's proper. There's nothing wrong with that. But the way it's been presented as some kind of Russian aggression or even active war, I think is really overblown, and it just shows that NATO leaders, the neocons' lust for war with Russia. It's inexplicable.
So what do you see happening here? Do you see? Aren't they getting together now to discuss this Article 4 that's been triggered?
Yeah, I believe I thought the Article 4 meeting had occurred yesterday, but
okay.
it might be ongoing today as well. Again, I don't think there's anything that's going to come of this other than maybe, some more coordination in terms of anti-drone measures and, air defense over frontline states like Poland and Lithuania. Mm-hmm. So I don't see this escalating. But the way it's being presented again is really indicative of how much NATO leaders really seem to want war with Russia. They seem to lust after it, and of course, in a war with Russia, their countries likely would not survive. They'd probably be hit on day one of major combat operations with a massive Russian cyber attack. It wouldn't be this. Fighting with one hand tied behind your back that we've seen the Russians do in Ukraine.
Now, you've posted on your Twitter feed this gal here, Diana Ponchachenko, and apparently she is, I looked at her little bio here, it says she is Journalist of the Year in Ukraine. She's a TV host. She's saying, I'm addressing at Real Donald Trump, following the tragic murder of legendary Charlie Kirk, another conspiracy is being prepared against you. From the office of Zelensky, I was informed that the Euro-globalists developed the anti-Trump project. Zelensky and Emmanuel Macron of France, plan to disrupt your peaceful initiative and compel American taxpayers to finance the war indefinitely. What do you posted this? It's a 7-minute video. What does she say? What is she warning us about?
Well, she's really an excellent Ukrainian journalist. She's pro-peace, of course, which is why she's banned and has been threatened with arrest in Ukraine, because Zelensky regime is a dictatorial regime, very repressive, much more repressive than Putin's regime in Russia, although similar in many ways. She's been posting about the fact that people are afraid for their lives, even within the Zelensky regime government and the parliament. Various opposition leaders have been in prison. They are allowed to speak from prison, but they remain in prison nonetheless. And she's reporting that very credibly, and this is exactly what I've been reporting all along as well. That Zelensky has no interest in peace at all. EU leaders like Macron from France are working overtime to sabotage all of Trump's peace initiatives. They don't want to have any meetings with Russia, with Putin. They just want to continue the war indefinitely. Their goal is to continue the war at least until Trump leaves office, at which point they hope that Kamala Harris or perhaps Gavin Newsom becomes president, and then they can keep the war going under a Democrat president.
All right, you're going to keep us posted on all this, right?
Yeah, I will.
Any more word about whether or not Charlie, this could have been something tied to Ukraine, the assassination of Charlie Kirk?
Well, of course, now they have pictures of a third suspect, much more credible, matches the police descriptions of someone that was racing on top of the rooftop, all clad in black. And again, this happened 40 miles from where I live, where I'm speaking from right now. I haven't encountered any additional evidence that it could be tied to Ukraine. There's been increased speculation of potential Israeli involvement, various statements he said that were negative towards Israel that could have gotten him in hot water, in which he essentially stated, I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to anyway. And, he was nervous about speaking some hard truths about Israel and what it's doing right now under Netanyahu in terms of ethnic cleansing, and of course the Epstein scandal. Epstein likely being a Mossad agent in kind of his sex ring being an Israeli honeypot operation to blackmail U.S. leaders to do their bidding.
Charlie was talking about all that.
He was, yeah.
Wow.
But and doing so from as an overall pro-Israeli perspective.
Yeah, because he's kind of known for being a Christian Zionist, I think.
Yeah, we're all Christian Zionists here. That's something unite us. I've always been a defender of Israel's right to exist and legitimate right to self-defense. Differed with them on the Gaza war, of course. And a lot of these blackmail operations against U.S. leaders. I mean, Israel has been doing that since LBJ when they reportedly blackmailed him to reveal his many adulterous affairs if he dared to respond against the near sinking of the USS Liberty back in 1967.
So keep us posted on what you're hearing, whether Ukraine or any other government, what you're hearing. I'm not buying the whole transgender anti-fascist garbage they say was tied to the gun. That just seems too convenient for a narrative. What do you say?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's that was one of my initial suspicions, of course, was the trans narrative, because there seemed to be someone doing hand signals with his hat and hands, right near Charlie Kirk right before he was shot. Perhaps indicating that he just answered a trans question and now's a good time to shoot him. I don't know what, I'm just speculating. But I think that likely is deflection. I mean, most people don't leave a calling card. If it was Ukraine SBU, I don't think they would say, Slava Ukraini or whatever right. Their slogan is on the gun and the ammo. It does seem that that's just a deflection to try to throw people off the trail of whoever really paid this assassin, because it does seem to be a very skilled shooter with a planned escape route with accomplices on site, of course there was reports about a private jet that flew out of Provo Airport, which was a 10-minute drive away. In good traffic from the shooting site, so that was likely his escape route to Arizona. So no one really knows. At least we don't know where he's at right now. But hopefully we'll have. There was reports on Fox News as we came on air that there's going to be, the press conference was delayed because of rapid developments in this investigation. So let's cross our fingers and hope that the shooter is apprehended later today.
Yeah, in fact, the airplane that you're talking about supposedly went missing off the radar, turned off its scanner illegally, right? That's what they're saying?
Yep, that was reported by Candace Owens last night.
The Daily Mail had it today. I was just looking for it. I can't find it now. But the Daily Mail had that article up earlier today saying the same thing, showing a map, how it illegally turned off its transponder and whatnot. So that article is gaining ground. I don't know where all that stands. But there you go. Wow. All right, keep us posted on what you hear, will you please?
Absolutely will. Thanks, Brandon.
dpyne.substack.com, D-P-Y-N-E, dpyne.substack.com. You can also put in David Pyne, P-Y-N-E, into Twitter, X. Follow him there as well. We'll be right back. We're not changing courses now. We are who we are. We're committed to the truth that we are committed to. Worldview Tube is a broadcast network that I started in 2006, but it's based on my 35 years as an author and speaker and commentator. Worldview Tube is here to defend the truth of a Christian worldview. And we believe we can apply it to all areas of life, like law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, major issues.
At worldviewtube.com, we provide news from around the globe that isn't typically covered by mainstream media. Visit worldviewtube.com to watch our experts and analysts discuss all your favorite topics on our 24/7 live stream. Explore our extensive collection of unfiltered and uncensored content from 35 years of production. Go to worldviewtube.com today. Also find us on all of these major platforms and download our Worldview Tube mobile app.
Joining me now is Dr. Thorpe, according to author and commissioner of the FDA, Marty Makary, MD. An American is more than 5 times likely to be killed by a physician/healthcare system than by a gun. And this, Dr. Thorpe, is why I have not been to a doctor in probably close to 15 years. I just don't go near them. Now, you have helped me, through computer, and Dr. McCullough's helped me, and I have my doctor up in Kansas City. Dr. James has helped me. I have Dr. Bashima Williams. But none of you have examined me. I've not gone into an office. I've not done anything. I just talk to good doctors I trust and stay away from the medical facilities. Might be a good idea, huh?
Well, I think you have a great point. You have a really, really good point here. What's gone awry? When the FDA commissioner himself, Marty Makary, and his co-author, Dr. Daniels, published this back in 2016, 251,454 deaths per year from the physicians and healthcare system and hospitals. That's the 3rd leading cause of death, according to Dr. Makary and Daniels. The 3rd leading cause of death in the United States of America, second only to, I believe, cancer, cardiac heart disease, and cancer. And, I point out in my tweet that really, I credit Dr. Marty Makary, but, remember, he's from Johns Hopkins, the most heavily funded institution captured in the world, the vaccine capital of the world. He writes his best-selling book last year called Blind Spot, and he goes through 250, 300 pages of all of the medical errors that have occurred causing deaths and, mistreatment of diseases in the United States healthcare system and causes of death. But not once did he mention the most obvious, COVID-19 injections. So he lost a lot of credibility with me and many others, but, he seems to be doing better. In this tweet, I also pointed out that really this far underscores this five-fold greater risk of deaths caused by physicians compared to the gunshots is really a way huge underestimate. Why? Well, because that doesn't even include the mass death from the COVID-19 vaccines, from as Senator Ron Johnson refers to them, as a COVIDian cult or cartel. And number 2, let's keep in mind this too. How about we add in the million of murders that take place in my most vulnerable patients, preborns, right? Abortions, 1 million a year, most of which are completely unnecessary and done for convenience sake. Add that into the equation. That might be up to 10 or 20-fold greater than the deaths from guns.
And you're also pointing out here that that's a huge underestimate because McCary's study was published in 2016. It does not take into account the COVIDian cult killers 2020 to present. So the number is actually much, much higher than 5 times. So you have much higher than a 5 times likely more chance of dying from visiting a health facility than you do from a gunshot.
Yeah, remember now, abortion, okay? Murdering the innocent, the most vulnerable. It's called healthcare now. That's defined by the AMA and all the hospitals and all the doctors as women's health. Women's health care, Brennan. So those are not my words.
What else? What should we do? How should we be responding? How should our listeners respond to this?
Well, the mass shootings are out of control. Let's not doubt that one bit. To the best of my determination, just in this calendar year, there have been over 309 mass shootings. And what we saw yesterday was horrible. And my condolences go out to, Kirk's family and his wife, Erica, and, his 2 surviving children. It's awful. It's just awful. And it's a tragedy for everyone, as President Trump made it very clear. So, but we look at these mass shootings and they are increasing exponentially, but they still dwarf what the physicians and healthcare hospitals are putting their patients in the morgue from their mistakes. So I think we need to, evil is present. We talked about these increase in mass shootings and you on more than one occasion, and as have many others, have quoted our paper that we published in June regarding the COVID-19 vaccines and the association with cognitive decline and severe psychiatric illness, including homicidal behavior. So again, you look at this manuscript was written before 2025. It's just published in June. So, look at those numbers of mass shootings and killings. That number of 309, that's defined as a mass shooter causing at least 1 death and at least 3 other injuries. So it's 4 or more mass shootings resulting in at least 1 death and at least 3 other injuries.
If you guys want to follow Dr. Thorpe, you can do that on his X account. Here it is. I'll go right to it so you can grab it. At J.A. Thorpe MFM, at J.A.T.H.O.R.P. MFM. Follow the great Dr. Thorpe. And also his weekly television show airs each weekend right here on Worldview Tube on what, Saturday and Sundays, Logan? Yep. What time, please? 4 p.m. Central on Saturday. 4 p.m. Central on Saturday, 11 a.m. Central on Sundays. And if you want to watch all the shows, all you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/TWODOCS. Worldviewtube.com/2docs. Spell it out, and you'll get it. You'll see all of their shows right there. Dr. Moon and Dr. Thorpe. One an OBGYN, another a pediatrician. They make a great combo. They put a lot of work into it each and every week. Share it with your friends. Tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, True Social. Spread it around. Let people see this great broadcast each and every week by Dr. Thorpe and Dr. Moon. Dr. Thorpe, thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me, Brannon. And I want to extend a shout out to my friend, Attorney Jeff Childers.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Great guest tonight on our broadcast. All right, Dr. Thorpe, take care of yourself. Greet your lovely wife, Maggie. And folks, we'll be right back after this break. Hello, I'm Brannon Howse. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. Joining me now is Michael Weiner. Hello, Michael. Welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Good evening, Brannon. How are you?
I'm good. Gold is headed toward $3,700 an ounce. Silver is headed toward $42 an ounce. Why this big aggressive move?
Why not? The reality is I brought this up and I told you that usually during the summer, if we go back in our shows, that it's usually dull. And it wasn't. And I said, when we start coming into September, which we're going to have the end of the year end for the U.S. government is September 30th. They're talking about the budget. We can see from these monsters that call themselves Democrats that are socialists and communists, how they handled themselves yesterday, which was absolutely despicable in Congress. I don't believe that they're going to cooperate with the budget. So I might move my prognosis up even faster to maybe 3,800 at the end of this month. But I still think we'll probably hit 37 by the end of this month. But I'm still sticking with December 1, 4,000. Gold is money. The situation with digital currencies globally. We're not the only one calling the shots. What Donald Trump has been finding out since he's been in office is everybody's sort of ready for him this time. It isn't like when he came in the first time and he hit him with the tariffs and everybody ran around, didn't know what to do. They've been prepared, and things aren't going as quickly as he might have thought. And at the end of the day, we're right now seeing slowdowns in various different areas and concern from people and companies that are going to affect us. So I think gold tied into the digital changeover and the new currency system, including in this country coming up in the months ahead, are going to push gold up to ridiculous levels over the next 3 years. This year, though, 4,000, 4,200. End of the month, 3,700 is more than likely. For goodness sake, we've gone up 200 in 2 weeks. So I'm not really concerned about 3,700 as an issue.
Here we go. Gold eyes 4,000 to 5,000, momentum fueled by Fed outlook. So you will not be shocked to hit 5,000 an ounce. Is that what I'm hearing, Michael?
I've been in it since 42.50, so I'm shocked to see it. I'll be shocked to not see it hit $5,000 an ounce next year. I think that there's no way around it, that the currencies globally are going to be tied into gold. Our central banks of the world are getting in that direction, including our main enemy, China, who's playing a lot of games with both gold and silver, and mostly gold, that even the U.S. government is aware of and making moves to repricing and of the gold market. So we're going to have a new currency, and that currency that we have, and I guess people didn't pay attention to the Genius Act. The Genius Act establishes us with a stable-going environment with controls on cryptos, all in the means of restructuring, revaluing, and devaluing of the dollar. And that's up-and-coming attractions, not in years, but in months. And people got to realize to get ready for it, because the only literally situation right now that they can count on for stability and strength will be gold. They have to devalue the U.S. dollar. That is collapsing. And we are losing strength. We need to build strength. And the only way we can do that is by absorbing debt and devaluing the dollar.
All right. So at what point?
All on the table.
So at what point does someone say, but I'm afraid, to get in because it may come crashing back down. And so if I put in now, it'll crash back down. I lose a lot of money. What about that?
At normal times in the market, we don't sell. We're not. If you're here and you want to just speculate on price, then we're the wrong company. We deal with people with asset preservation and long-term situations. So the market's fluctuation is healthy. Okay, it's a matter of what the direction of the market going right now. And in today's world, the direction of this market is up. Now, I hope we have days where there's corrections and there's dips, because that's healthy. Nothing should go straight up. That's why we have a problem in the stock market. That's exactly why the stock market is a major flaw area, because it's just gone up and up and up, and we forgot the roots of our country, and we spend way too much time worried about the Dow Jones than worry about manufacturing, business development, small business development, because that's the backbone of America, not Dow Jones.
Right.
But again, we're looking at a situation right now where we are in a positive vein, and that vein is going to go on for 3 years. And I hope there's peaks and valleys. But right now, I can say buying gold below $4,000 an ounce is a deal. And last year in August, I had looked my notes for one of the shows that we had done, and I said at that time, people are going to remember buying gold below $3,000 an ounce. And guess what? How many of you remember that?
Yeah.
Because we said that.
Here we go. Trump can't stop this. BRICS buys 60,000 ounces of gold to hammer the U.S. dollar.
Correct.
That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. The BRICS banking system they're building as the alternative to the dollar for those who are new listeners, new viewers. They're looking to de-dollarize, to get rid of the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency.
Correct. And they made it perfectly clear from the onset. And when you started talking about BRICS years ago, I think in 2011 and 12, you brought it up. Nobody paid attention.
Nope.
It's the same thing when we talk about Genius Act. Nobody paid attention. Nobody paid attention July 3rd when China came out and said, guess what? We are creating a global financial system to mirror the United States government, to make it a basket of currencies, world versus the U.S. government being the world reserve currency, which I said previously is so dangerous for us. Being the world reserve currency, and for people, a lot of people go, what is the world reserve currency? That is when countries pay each other, they convert their money to U.S. dollars. It's a major means of payment. If we lose that strength, we lose economically, politically, geopolitically, militarily, and that's why China's attacking it, and that's why they're tying gold into their system, because they want to show strength over our system, which is why Trump and Besant are embracing gold through the Fort Knox issue and other things. So again, right now, the BRICS are going to continue to hammer gold. So is the European Union, quite honestly. And it's going to turn out to be a very strong element. And that's why the Union Bank of Switzerland's president called for $5,000 gold next year, because it's not being treated as a commodity anymore. It's a financial instrument. Second, as he put it, the second strongest financial instrument in the world. The first is presently the U.S. dollar.
So 2025 subtract 2012 is 13 years. So for 13 years, we've been warning about the death of the U.S. dollar, the petrodollar. So there it is, 2012, one of our broadcasts. Here's another one. Saudi Arabia and China team up to build a gigantic new oil refinery. Is the beginning of the end for the petrodollar, 2012. So 11 international agreements that are nails in the coffin of the petrodollar. So we've been warning people for 13 years. And I wonder what gold was back in 2012 when we were warning about that.
Around 1,300, 1,200, 1,300.
Yeah, well, we predict trends here, folks. That's what we do. They can either, act on it or not. That's up to them. All right, let's go to another one. Wells Fargo CEO sees more downside to U.S. economy as lower income consumers struggle. Are we in a recession already?
Well, I think we were in a recession under Biden, just nobody called it. And, unfortunately, President Trump is dealing with the leftovers of what he got. And in straightening a matter out, realities come in. They lied, cheated, and stealed under Biden, amongst other things, and killed probably. But more importantly, when we're looking at this situation right now, I agree with them that I think we're into a slowdown. I think the stock market is going to go through not a collapse, but a correction that'll be dramatic. Maybe 3,000 to 5,000 points, which isn't a crash. A crash would be 15,000 points. And I believe that the situation with hiring and business is very skeptical right now. They're trying to get comfortable with everything, and they're being, right now, even when we're seeing a little bit of concern, is this whole thing with a federal judge trying to block Donald Trump's ability to do tariffs. People who don't understand that realize the fact that he has already signed deals. He's already collected money from countries on tariffs. If we lose that in the Supreme Court, we not only lose the ability to have a president deal with tariffs. Tariffs go back to James Madison and Thomas Jefferson. If a president doesn't have that capability, we not only lose financial strength, and the presidency does, but we're going to have to return all those tariff money to countries. We have to send money back. It's going to be very interesting. So this is exactly why, Wes and I are running around sending notifications to people, telling the people, wake up, call us, review your portfolios, hedge, shore up. And a lot of people are going, call me tomorrow. Well, all right, fine. You call us tomorrow, pay more, get less.
Wow. Let's go to this one real quick for a wrap. And that is Standard Chartered predicts 50 basis points Fed rate cut next week after unemployment soared to near 4-year high. What will happen to gold if they do a cut of 50 basis points?
Gold will go up. Gold will go up.
Because people will see this as inflationary, right?
Correct. They'll see it as inflationary. And the problem is that the market has already factored all that in. And I don't know how much of a major effect that's going to have on the housing market, because the housing market is an absolute disaster and it's self-made. We all made it. We allowed houses to become more of a financial asset than a home. And we've allowed the stock market to become more of a panacea than the actual strength of America. So the strength during World War II that saved our nation was not the stock market. It was the United States of America, the people building factories, building planes. We did things. We didn't just bet on things. We actually did things. And that's what President Trump's trying to get us back to. But you're not going to have people buying homes. And that's the problem right now, when they can't get a decent price, when things are absolutely ridiculous. And that's because we self-made that happen. We generated it by playing games with houses as a financial instrument, live in it, sell it 2 years later, and I'm going to double my money. Well, unfortunately, the other people who want to buy it and live in it suffering the consequences of the word greed. That's the word, greed.
If you want to get a free packet of information on precious metals, including putting them into your IRA, just simply go to worldviewgold.com, worldviewgold.com, or you can text Wes at 602-558-8585, 602-558-8585. Text him your name and address. He'll send the packet on to you. Looking forward to having you with us October 3rd and 4th at our national 22nd annual Worldview weekend here in Collierville, Tennessee.
Well, I appreciate it. Dolly and I are doing lunch. In any event, we'll have fun.
Dolly, are you doing lunch with Michael Weiner? He's sitting right here at the news desk. Are you? Are you going to do lunch with Michael?
Yeah. I'm bringing you a present from the cats.
Okay. Oh, the cats. She loves cats. She loves cats. She has a kitty cat. She has a kitty cat. You have a kitty cat, right? Kitty, kitty, kitty. Yeah, she knows that. All right. Thank you, Michael.
All right. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. Go to worldviewgold.com, folks. Worldviewgold.com. All right, guys, that's our broadcast for tonight. Do you appreciate all we're doing? We just work so hard. We really do. We love what we do. It's not easy, but we do love what we do overall. Yesterday was a very hard day. I didn't really love that, that's for sure. But we love what we do, and we love bringing you the news through the lens of a Christian worldview, helping you understand the times, bringing you reason, logic, context, and we push it all out for free. Yesterday, Logan said we had the highest numbers we have ever had. We were on the air for 7.5 hours. We've been on the air a long time tonight, too. We need your support, though, folks. We are under attack. The IRS is harassing the daylights out of us. They took our $49,000, as you know, because we simply paid our taxes, our payroll taxes, with a check when their system was down for 2 days. They gave us 2 letters of abatement. One saying, oh, don't worry about it. Then they tried to take it again, and we said, wait, here's a letter of abatement. They sent us another one. Then they came back around 2 years later and said, we want our money. And now it's from $43,000 up to over $49,000. I hate to tell you this, folks, but we have reason to believe there are Islamists that have reached into the high levels of the IRS, and the Islamists are trying to damage us. Anni Cyrus says on the dark web, the IRGC is openly talking about our foundation and trying to bankrupt our foundation, the IRGC. Well, what better way to do that than put some of your people, Islamists, inside the IRS and start harassing Christians and Christian organizations and organizations that talk about Islam? Is that what's going on? Well, that's what I'm being told is a possibility. So we need your support. The money we spend on accountants and attorneys and everything else just to try to be here. And our foundation helps us push out programming for free. We're also a church. Did you know that? We're a church. Our Sunday night church service I've been doing for years, where I'm teaching through the book of Revelation right now. I'll be back Sunday night, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, as I teach through Revelation chapter 20. I'm about halfway through that chapter, Revelation chapter 20. There's 22 chapters in that book. And then after that, I'm planning on teaching through the book of Daniel. So if you appreciate what we're doing, folks, and we're not just giving you the news, we're giving you truth through the lens of a Christian worldview. We give the gospel very clearly to people. If you appreciate all we're doing, folks, we do need your support. So please consider making a contribution now. You'll find our mailing address on our website if you prefer to support us through the mail. You'll also find our phone number if you would rather call, leave a voicemail for Melissa or text her, let her know that you'd like to support us, and she'll get back to you and help you do that. Thank you. We send out tax receipts the first week of every February. So thank you. All right, roll the music. Call it a night, guys. Everybody's tired. We're all ready to go. Here is our business cards. You can order these free. Get a pack of about 20 of them. Pass them out to your family and friends. We have sent out now, I think he told us the other day, over 20,000 of these. It's a great way just to say, hey, you guys want to try out a free network that talks about the issues of the day through the lens of a Christian worldview, reason, logic, context. Here it is. Pass them out, worldviewstore.com. May God save America. Pray for Charlie Kirk's family. Take care.